One of the most brilliant things for athletic performance that he taught me, and he taught a lot of the students of his, was that body composition is one of the most underrated ways to make people perform better athletically.
Both, yeah.
Exactly.
Let's keep going.
You heard what you wanted to hear, Nsima. Yeah. How do people put on muscle? Well, we all know we're all meatheads. If you lift weights, we put on muscle. Mm-hmm. Okay, but is it mTOR signaling or is it the small micro tears? Like, I don't know. Which theory is that theory is the Greek word theoria, which is to see.
Yeah.
So if you see it and it sticks, great. But if it doesn't stick, okay, next theory.
With what you said, you said like there's an 8-step fundamental to what you guys do. Mm-hmm. Can you take us through what those fundamentals are?
Somewhere along the line, we got screwed up and we made the workout just totally and completely annihilate you. Mm-hmm. You leave it all in the gym. And the gym, in my opinion, is supposed to, most of the time, make you feel a lot better rather than make you feel a lot worse.
One comment you see from certain groups online when they see people doing the split squat, I'm not going to name these groups, but people know when I say it, is like, oh, these guys are going to be needing knee replacements in the next 5 to 10 years. What do you think about that?
Like, he's great. He
pooped on his desk.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
He took a shit on this desk.
Yeah, that makes sense. He marked.
It's not necessarily like the biggest thing on their radar, which is like, how do I get more bendy? It's like, no, how do I get stronger? How do I look more jacked? How do you make like the ATG program attractive to people that are in those pursuits?
If you're alive, you can improve. Like, if you're alive, you can spend today doing a little bit better. And that's the thing. And you get to then do it the next day and be a little bit better. And you can do that on your nutrition. You can't fix the past, but today and tomorrow you can be a little bit better.
PowerProject family, how's it going? This episode is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot Shoes. These shoes we've been wearing for almost a year now, and we love them because they're great for our feet. Wide toe box, minimal shoe, they're flexible, but they also don't look like shit. A lot of barefoot shoes, when you see them and you put them on, you're actually asking for people to make fun of you. But these shoes actually look really fucking good.
Yes, dude, they look good. No one's going to make fun of you, and you don't even need a man bun to wear these shoes. You can just put them on inside the gym, outside of the gym. You're going to look good, you're going to feel good, and your feet are going to get stronger. You guys got to head over to vivobarefoot.com and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject to save 20% off your entire order. Again, vivobarefoot.com, promo code PowerProject, 20% off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah, stay on that mic.
You'll be able to hear how far you... Yep.
He likes movement over
there. This man likes to move, which is good.
We might have to tie the headphones to
ready to like rap or something.
Now I'm not sure who has more energy, him or Graham, because I thought Graham had more energy, but now that I'm like seeing Ben move and talk.
Well, Ben's enhanced though.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a lot of caffeine.
Yeah. How much is in that Zoa?
It was only 200 compared to your 4x4x4.
Yeah, so it's 71.
He's running on fumes too.
Yeah, that's true. The time
the flight and everything. Hey, speaking of energy, let's slam down some Mind Bullet.
Here we go.
Especially since Ben has no idea what it is. I think
that's even better.
Pull it out.
Kabing.
You got it.
High trait openness, gentlemen.
High trait openness. Did you do the understand myself?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
1% conscientiousness.
1% conscientiousness?
Yeah, low.
Really?
High level argumentative.
It doesn't taste good.
That you guys are talking about something I have no idea about.
I'm talking about Chinese medicine.
Got it. Well, no, Ben was saying that he takes.
That
was online. He's gonna nail it.
He's gonna nail it.
Fuck yeah!
Oh,
God damn it! I love
4 espresso
one
shots.
For one, baby.
Or was it 4 espressos?
Yeah, 4 is usually like a 6:30 in the morning kind of thing.
And then?
Like mid morning, another 4.
And then?
Pre-workout, like another 4 probably.
Is it? Wait, is this like when you travel, or is this on a normal day?
Normal day. Yeah.
How much caffeine is that?
A lot.
What is it?
150 per each one?
No, 71 per espresso. So
I know, but 150 per.
Yeah, for double.
You're saying, right? Yeah.
No, per double. So it's 4 is like 300.
Oh.
Yeah, so 300.
300.
So he's at like
900.
9.
So like a gram of caffeine.
But normally I'm like, after the first one, I'm like, hi guys, how are you doing? I talk kind of like Nsima. I'm like, hey, I'm normal now.
Oh, it has like a U-shaped curve to it. Huh? Comes back down the other side. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the afternoon, maybe I'm like, I got some athletes. I'm like, I think I need to get myself a little bit more yipped up.
Yeah.
So I can, sit and be like, that was a shit movement. Make it better.
Mm-hmm. So to be real, just again, once again, you're typically intaking 700 milligrams of caffeine or above each day.
Depends. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. What is sure?
I like that. Depends. But who's counting? Like, who's counting?
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take.
Take.
Yeah.
Dog. Y'all are wild.
Agree to disagree.
Have you looked into caffeine, studied it much or anything? Or
Yeah, I like it.
you enjoy it?
I do. And the 23andMe, I do have the gene that can deal with it pretty quickly. So I can have a double at 11 and go to sleep.
What's that called?
I can't remember the
Absorb
whatever you can
well,
break it
or-
down. It's you can the half-life thing. You break it down quicker.
Are you also one of those people like me who can get 2 hours of sleep a night and be perfectly
Be
okay?
careful.
I mean, I slept 3 hours last night. If that's any,
And you're fine, right?
I'm okay. Yeah,
See,
yeah.
like
You
genetically,
guys have
also-
that gene.
But also have 3 kids, and the thing is that I'm pretty good in the gym of knowing not to go nuts if I don't got it.
yeah,
Like pretty good auto reg. It's like
There we
I'm
go.
a chill. Mark's trying to kill himself with
2
the
hours,
rows, and I'm
3
like, I'm good.
hours.
yeah, 2-3 hours a night. That's all you need.
You got
Yeah. I mean, I prefer more, but you know,
you have 3 kids and
Indeed.
they're all under the age of 6, right?
6.5's the oldest. So you know,
Jeez.
and number 4 is coming
Man.
in August. Yeah,
That's fucking crazy. That's
it's
crazy.
it means just I have no learning curve.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm very lucky. A very lucky, amazing wife who's an absolute, like saint.
You said she's jacked, right?
She is jacked. Yeah,
What's up with that?
yeah. Genetic gift, but
Does she
it's
lift?
she does. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
She's pretty strong. Yeah. She does jujitsu too, which is pretty cool too.
Nice.
yeah.
How long
Yeah,
ago did you
blue belt.
start?
Maybe a year after I did, something like that. But again, there's a few kids that are in between that have intermittently prevented her continuation.
Yeah.
Yeah, neon belly with the pregnant belly is not awesome.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Push
not
that baby
recommended.
out.
So years ago, I shot a video with our buddy, our mentor,
Yeah.
the late Charles Poliquin, and he jacked me up with some really interesting stuff. He did a bunch of stuff to like my pecs, did a bunch of stuff to like my shoulder. He got me to get more range of motion when I was bench pressing. He helped get me out of pain. He showed me a bunch of different things. But one thing he did is he took a pen cap and he drilled it into my thumb, and that shit hurt a lot. And I'd love you to demonstrate this on Nsima for today.
Why do you want? No.
Well,
Hey, you guys manhandled me before the podcast. It's
Yeah.
your turn.
Yeah, why not? I
well,
already
but I'll
went through
do it. I mean, do you want me to do it? I mean, it's not going to do anything now. We have to.
Yeah, it's
show
not gonna do
stuff.
anything.
But
That's okay.
It's demonstration.
You just
No,
want
that's
to
okay.
no.
podcast.
No,
For what?
You just want
It's
to
gonna
make
clear
it.
your
Okay, I'll
mind.
do the thyroid one, which is
No,
cool.
anyway.
What's
I
the
just wanted-
thyroid one?
It's a wakes you up kind of a thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Way to
So
take.
Should I come to you? I'll come to
yeah,
you.
sure. No, you come to me.
Andrew, if you can try to bring that clip up here, it's pretty neat. Of
I'll look for it.
yeah.
Wait, hold on. I can't see you guys. Hold on.
Where do you need this to be?
Hold on. Just give me a second.
he's going to read and
So this is one people are like, my hands are cold, or
Oh,
I don't feel really awake, hence caffeine. But
hey,
you know.
take this pen cap and jam it into him
He wants.
somewhere.
This is how he shows love. This
Put it
is how
into
he
his
shows love.
eyeball.
So you go. It's right there.
Oh wow, he's putting some pressure.
This is great.
Whoa!
Keep going. No, this is good.
He's putting lots of pressure.
He's a really
on
good
his
actor.
wrists.
It's phenomenal. And the
No,
Oscar
that
goes
shit
to.
hurts.
Yeah, it does hurt. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I
I should have warned you.
I'm usually really good at like
Yeah,
being
yeah,
chill
yeah.
through shit.
Yeah, and what's funny is we rolled jujitsu last time, and that was So anyway, so the Ninja Jedi McDojo trick, like there we go. Maybe you would have tapped if I'd have done that one, but
I do feel more awake now.
It's
Well, yeah.
Do it to Mark.
Yeah.
No, actually, Mark, let him
No,
do
I'm
it
ready,
to you.
I'm ready.
Yeah, let him do it to you. Mark's gonna be super stoic right now. He's gonna
No,
be like,
no,
I ain't gonna scream like
No,
a bitch
no.
like Nsima.
Well, it's a good one because a lot of people come in and they're like, I don't got any juice, and it's just a little one. It's also like, ooh, they
Do
trust
it
me.
like you did it to me.
I'm actually, the funny thing is I'm actually super nervous. I saw Nsima's reaction and I already know. So like I'm already in pain basically. I'll try to stay close to the microphone so,
Yeah, you'll be
General.
fine.
so you can get my girly screams. Here we go.
Shit ain't gentle.
Did you guys?
Luckily I have very fat hands, so
Did you guys start yet?
Yeah, he's going.
Just joking.
He's going. Mark is just being
just being a
super
beast.
stoic right now. Good for you, Mark. I'm proud of you. Yeah.
He's like,
I think he's
Oh, that's
crying.
he's good.
Damn it.
I have
Andrew, get your ass up here. No,
said,
come here, Andrew.
You guys already fondled me. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm awake. Yeah.
but it's for your thyroid.
Yeah, exactly.
My thyroid's good.
So what does that do?
It's an awakening point. So you're like, I don't got anything juice like for the gym. Like they walk through the door, like I don't got anything.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, cool. And then you're like, all right, let's train. So it's a little bit of a, Also pre a roll, I would
What's
do
the,
like pre a fight, like that kind of thing.
What's the warrior point? What's that about? I remember Charles talking about
I
that
did
one.
that to a client, a hockey player, and he almost punched me in the face. So that one's like a
Yeah,
good
you
one
gotta
for
be careful with who you do. Yeah, hockey player.
Yeah, man. Like it was good for a max. Like I ran, like I did it and then ran, and then he went. He was like, "Do I punch you, or do I go and do my lift?" And he got a nice. It was like 400-pound back squat. It was great. Like it was great. So
what is the warrior?
The warrior point is it's
Between
it
your
hurts-
dick
yeah.
and your.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is what it is. It's the warrior point is whatever it is you want to hear that it is, right? It's just
In
under
your
your nose.
chest?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
just under your nose, and what you do is you push under and in, and you rub it as hard as you can. It hurts like hellfire, and you hold the person in the back of their head, and
Oh my
it hurts
God!
a lot.
Yeah.
so-
Ooh, and you like do it hard, huh?
yeah. And then the person goes, and it's the worst thing is when you do it to the person and they don't get their max lift.
I was gonna say
Because
it's
then
like,
they're
not,
it's
I'd
not
rather
perfect.
just not have the PR.
Yeah.
You know?
Has that been done to you before? Because it's like you knew.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Someone's
about it.
done that
well,
to
I have
you?
older brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but okay. Question.
Does it help or hurt if like their finger smells like something?
Yeah. Right.
It depends. Motivation is individual. So some people really,
Like even just putting like small
Yeah.
amount of pressure there,
Yeah.
it's just like you just want to cry.
Yeah. Well, there's
Pure.
legends of old martial arts where if you were to strike there would be a death blow kind of thing. There's the old, martial arts samurai stuff where that would be a strike to the bridge, just right there.
Yeah.
You could, whatever. Like
Speaking of martial arts, you've messed around with some martial arts,
I
right?
have. It's I have a black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh,
which
shit.
is what it is. It means you can kick stuff. But the problem is
You
anyone
kick stuff really awesome.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to kick somebody?
I probably a leg kick. I think if
Just
you were to
surprises the hell out of them, right?
I just blast someone in the legs. Like if you can
On the
blast them-
inside of the leg or on
That's
more
all right.
on
On the
outside?
outside, just people are not like. I mean, Muay Thai dudes, like those dudes can take those kicks, but most people, like you blast them in the leg, are like,
I love watching UFC, but when
Yeah,
I see
where
those
they're
guys
just
kicking
blasted.
each
It's
other
like,
in the
no,
legs,
thanks.
I'm like, I don't want to see
No,
anymore.
thanks.
They're like, this seems like it's too painful.
Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, and then jujitsu happened, and it's kind of like, here's the the dark arts. It's like you get into the it's like jujitsu is such an amazing thing. Like everyone, obviously Joe Rogan and everyone, and like Nsima loves it, and it's a great, it's a movement puzzle. It's phenomenal, and I think the thing is that jujitsu is one of those hobbies that other hobbies you can do like, oh, how many times do you do it? Oh, I go twice a week, and you're like, oh, cool, that's pretty serious. And in jujitsu, like twice a week, like. Well, you don't go 6 times a week. What's wrong with you? 6 times a week is like, oh, you're a recreational jujitsu player. Like it's like you're not training 3 times a day, like and living on the mats and like wearing your sweaty gi and just like staying in the gi and
Like John Donaher wearing your.
oh my god,
your
rash guard
guard
everywhere. Yeah, he's a legend. I love John. Like John is an absolute legend. I love how he systematized jujitsu. It's brilliant. I watch all those. Those are amazing.
So you said you're 41 years old, so you must have been around like when I was young, people used to say like, hey, it would be amazing to see like this guy fight this guy, but like no one ever knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
No one really understood that there was like no one even really ever talked about grappling.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school, I remember like, okay, don't mess with the wrestlers because they'll pick you up and slam you on your head. But other than that, like nobody knew any technique about anything. So somebody thought if somebody was big and had some muscles, they could wreck shop, right? Or if someone's big and heavy, they could beat the hell out of somebody. If somebody was mad or just like, got into a lot of fights, they could beat the crap out of somebody. And then jiu-jitsu came along, like the UFC came along. People saw what Hoist Gracie could do.
Yeah.
Do you remember a lot of that stuff?
I
going on?
remember it. I remember looking
That's
back on that,
insane.
but I remember kind of being like, I don't know, I'm doing Taekwondo, but I watched that and I'm like, okay, UFC's cool. And then you're like, it just is so overwhelming. Jiu-jitsu won, at least in the early days. Now there's like the ground and pound and the wrestlers and there's the strikers but fundamentally, almost everyone needs some jiu-jitsu, like to a certain extent. It's not the only way, but either early on it was, and jiu-jitsu won. It was pretty much that. And they talk about it, like all the guys, like it could have not won, like one crazy punch and it would have been like, everyone's a boxer or everyone's but he figured it out and he's, Hoist, like really, and that whole family are just unbelievable. And, if they're just, it's just so profound. And it's we were talking earlier, it's such a brilliant combination of traditional Japanese martial art, but also the innovation of the Brazilian, this family of Gracie. It's just, it's so phenomenal, this mix of innovation and tradition. And I think that's what's so cool about it is that and the new games and all the different guys with the lapels and the no-gi and Gordon Ryan and John Danner, like it's really phenomenal. It's such a phenomenal movement puzzle. I think I was saying earlier, like I was, always give credit to my mentors, Charles Poliquin and Ido Portal. Charles Poliquin would talk more about, but I got to Ido Portal from Charles, and Ido Portal talked about the 3 layers of movement, which is isolate. If you've hurt your ankle, you do ankle movement or whatever, and integrate, which is more complex movement, squats, deadlifts, this kind of stuff, and then improvise, which each person picks the thing that they want to do improvisationally. Like I make most of my, my career is based on the first 2, but I love movement in a way, and jujitsu is this improvisational. There's all kinds of different ways of talking about it. I think it's unchoreographed dance where there's choking and arm breaking involved, and I think it's really cool because it's a movement puzzle where you're trying to figure out an opponent that's trying to,
trying to choke you,
yeah.
break you back.
So I think it's very cool because it's not like there's no tempos, there's no whatever. It's just trying to figure out this puzzle, this movement puzzle in a rule set and a game that's really fascinating. That you can go pretty much breakneck. But it's anyway. So I find that movement puzzle fantastic for myself.
We got a video playing right now.
Oh, there we go.
Poliquin working on me. Look how mobile I am getting up.
His biceps, though, by the way,
Charles, yeah,
like they look like baseballs.
So that's a story I'll tell you. Like that's the genius of Charles. Is part of it was, he introduced me to Al Vermeil, who was the only strength coach that won championships with an NFL team and an NBA team, the Chicago Bulls and the 49ers. And he said, and this is, I think, part of what fascinates me, and Charles took this to heart, you're always selling. You're always selling your program to the athletes, and you're selling to the coach, and you're selling to the board of directors and for everyone. And Charles's arms, so he'd walk into an NHL gym and they'd look at his arms and be like, okay, I'll listen to him because of his arms. And it was a selling point.
Yeah, he
And
said
it's
he'd
brilliant.
have to take off his jacket or his hoodie
Yeah.
or whatever and show his arms. And then people are like, okay.
Yeah, I'll listen to you, whatever. But it's brilliant. But it was so brilliant. And he was also lean and shredded, so he could always talk about that. And, he said one of the things, I was looking through some of my notes, old notes of his, one of the most brilliant things for athletic performance that he taught me and he taught a lot of the students of his was that body composition is one of the most underrated ways to make people perform better athletically. And it's, you're faster, less fat, less body fat. There's less friction in between your muscle fibers. And it's so brilliant. And you guys are doing such an amazing job at that from a nutritional point of view to try and bring to the fore all these different ideas about nutrition, how to help people fundamentally be leaner. I mean, there's a lot of obesity, and I think different people are trying to help people in different ways.
The
and
fastest
I think,
way for a lot of people to get stronger, they're listening right now, is to lose body fat.
Exactly.
You'll be able to hang from a chin-up bar longer. You'll be able to do lunges without as much pain and so on. So you might think, okay, if you're a power lifter, you might think my bench or squat might go down because of certain sensations and certain feelings you have, and you could be correct. But for general population, a lot of your markers of strength, which would also be relative to your body weight, would improve quite a bit by simply just working on trying to lose about 10% of your body weight, probably. Body fat, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, he says the easiest way to get people faster is to get them leaner. And then there's all the markers and the metrics, which, and again, like Charles, I'm very lucky. I have to be forever grateful for him. He was a good friend and my mentor, and I still miss him. And, he advised me early on in my career. I wouldn't have anything. I mean, obviously hard work is involved in my own interpretation of his methods, but I really wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for Charles. And a lot of his students feel that way. And again, I have to, talk about Ben Patrick and, the two of us, we really want to further Charles's legacy in a way that's accessible to more people. And I think fundamentally that's what Charles, I think Charles would have wanted that. And,
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean,
Maybe
with all his
a little
own,
bit mean.
I'm very lucky. I never got into any fights with him. I'm very lucky.
Quick question, man. Shoot. Like the fingertip thing, what you just did to our palms, all these points, conceptually, where does that come from? Where did he learn that stuff from? Is that an amalgamation of experimenting things, or did he learn it from something specific? Yeah.
So Charles, I think part of the genius of Charles is he said that he reads minimally 16 hours a day, and he would do consults. So actually, last time we met, I said to you, listen, I respect all the work you've done. Clearly, your body composition methods are fantastic. I would like to pay you your consult fee. And you said, no, don't worry about it. I'll share. And that was very generous of you. And Charles taught me early on to pay people for their time and respect their worth. and learn from them so that they're in a position where they're willing to give more because there's a respect. So Charles would do that with some of the best experts in the world on all these things. And he went to Chinese medicine practitioners and he learned all their methods, and he tried to figure out how he could use that, not just for healing modalities, which he used and helped and advised a lot of people on, but also for how to get people stronger. So the methods were, the first way he called it was PIMST, which is everything was Poliquin. The Poliquin instant muscle strengthening techniques. And I learned those, and I've used those to great effect. And I think the cool thing is they're not be all end alls, but they're great tricks and ways to maybe get a little bit more range of motion or a little bit more energy or a little bit more juice. And, and if they're a placebo, cool. But like, I think I've seen too many times where it actually works.
The pain of you digging into my hands
exactly.
literally woke me the fuck up.
There we go.
That's also a point.
There we
guess.
go. The joke is like, my eye hurts. And it's like I punch you in the gut and you're like, you're not feeling your eye anymore. So maybe that's the genius of Charles. But he was a genius of amalgamating all kinds of different things and taking away, the Bruce Lee principle, taking what was useful, discarding what was not. So he spent hours and hours researching and reading, and he would come to us, and those of us who spent time with him, he said, look, I went and did this for like 2 days or a week or months, and these are the 3 takeaways. Now that's the value for us was that he was the one that did it for 3 months, so that we could take away the 2 gems and help people, do better things. So that was one of the things. I think the thing with Charles is that his genius was that he was so brilliant at so many things. And there's a lot of us, Ben and I talked about this.
He
Ben
spoke multiple languages.
Yeah, he was, well, in the early days, he learned Russian, German, Italian so that he could read behind the Iron Curtain type stuff, all of their programming so that he would know what they were doing. And I think what was really cool is that, what was really difficult is that he was such a genius. There we go. It's like all the pain. All the pain. There we go.
So fat, dog.
Looks good.
Yeah. But he was so brilliant that a lot of us have taken different paths. There's a lot of people that went down the functional medicine pathway, and they don't train anyone anymore, and they've done great things with people with really crazy health conditions. And there's those of us like Ben, Patrick, and I who are more interested in the athletic performance. And there's a whole bunch of people that were in the bodybuilding world that took his methods and went that way. And what's really amazing about him, he was also great at business, and again, no one's perfect, but he was great at psychology. Part of the thing that I really loved about him is that he was very philosophic. He was very open-minded, and he would really search out knowledge from all kinds of different practitioners.
By the way, I want to say I appreciate you buying me all those books,
there we
especially
go.
the ones that were hard to find.
There we go.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's part of it was that we would talk about those things. Actually, I don't think I told you. The last book I sent to him was Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules. So that was before he passed. I sent that to him, and then he actually posted saying, "Thank you very much for Ben." So it was an interesting corollary of sort of circular things. But he was very open-minded. He would read all the time. And
you said 16 hours a day minimum?
Yeah, no, 16 hours a week minimum.
16 hours a week.
Yeah, 16 hours a week of research. He said,
Amazing.
if you're not doing that, you're not expanding your knowledge. You're not trying to be open-minded and try and learn new things and try and bring things to your clients and to your athletes. And,
this video that we're watching, old YouTube video, and he's just kind of like working on me. He like pulls my ears. He sticks a pen cap into like my thumb. He does all these things, and it has to do with these meridian lines for people that want to kind of look it up more, and maybe you can explain it in a minute. But this video, like, it's very old, and I don't think people really cared about it. But I kind of think like if Charles did his magic like on me for like a TikTok video, it would probably go nuts. But the hard thing when you watch something like this, it's hard to believe it. Because you're watching and like my arms are stuck, and I'm like, oh, my arms are stuck. Like I can't bring my arms in on a squat. And then he is working on me for quite a while, so I don't want to make it seem like he sticks a pen cap in my thumb and I'm fixed. But what he does do is he does fix me over the course of maybe 20, 30 minutes. And I am able to get my hands in a lot closer than I normally do. My hands are normally way out by the plates. And this effect is not a permanent change. It's not something that affects you permanently. So what he would say is like, I would have to do that to you every time we train for a while.
Right.
And then you'll get to a point where you don't really need it anymore.
The idea is, he said it was 6 to 8 hours of effect. And what you do is you train into it. So it helps you train better. And then the training, so there was never how do you get leaner? How do you get stronger without picking up the weights? So at the end of the day, and here's the other thing, I think fundamentally one of the lessons I took from him was the magic of training. And Ben and I, Ben Patrick, Ben and I were very close. Like we do a lot of work together, and we both agreed that I think people don't understand how, I mean, clearly you guys do. And to the world out there, I think what's so amazing is how magical training is.
Yeah.
It's such an unbelievable gift and tool. And if I could put that out there to the, the masses, I think we all debate, we were talking about this earlier, the schools of thought of, do you agree with this method or that method, or is it this or that, the other thing? And everyone's trying to help people or whatever. But fundamentally, I think I want more people to understand how absolutely magical training is. It's such a magical thing.
Can you, since you're on the topic of training, I mentioned to you earlier about something like not being second nature, and then you gave me a little speech.
Right.
Can you give the audience a little speech on second nature?
Sure. Okay. So here we go into philosophy. And Nsima and I talked about, I think what I'm very lucky is that I've had an education in philosophy early. I was meant to be, I mean, what is meant to be? But I have a master's that focused on medieval philosophy, and I thought I was going to do a PhD and be a professor in this. But I, like Ben Patrick, and it's why we're connected in that way, is I blew my knee out playing basketball. So I thought I was invincible. At 5'11", and with not the most awesome genetics, I could dunk a basketball. Not on anyone, but not terrible. And I thought I was invincible, and I didn't lift weights. I thought lifting weights was silly. If I could beat you on the court, I could beat you on the court. Who cares what anyone else looked like? Mm-hmm. And then my awakening was, wow, I'm not invincible. I actually have to work at this. So that was my wake up moment. And my research brain changed from philosophy, of which I read still, and it's part of who I am, and I love it. And it influences who I am and how I think. To taking that research brain and figuring out, learning from Charles and other people how to help fix my knee, and then how to help fix other people's knees. So, and then the rest of their bodies. So that's my sort of pathway on that end. But the idea of second nature, I think what's interesting, we were talking about back to jiu-jitsu. You said you haven't really done it a lot, but your conception of, oh, you're in this bind or an arm bar or something like that, and you're like, your instinct is to roll the wrong way. So instinct is first nature. So this gets back to sort of, I always say, and back to Socrates, because that's sort of where my brain goes, is there's something called that people talk about with Socrates, is that it's a second sailing. And Socrates' critics, so Aristophanes, who was a poet who made fun of Socrates, said he was walking around one day and he was looking at the stars, and he was so clueless that he fell down a hole. So in other words, philosophy is stargazing, and it's so impractical and useless that he can't even,
Nsima doing that.
Yeah, stargazing. And,
right, Andrew?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
I'm not making that up.
No.
Right?
Fuck both y'all.
Exactly.
Let's keep going.
I you heard what you wanted to hear, and Nsima. Yeah.
That's going to be a constant
There we go.
theme on
There
this
we go.
podcast.
Listen, yeah. So Socrates falls into it, but this is Aristophanes' critique of Socrates. But actually, so Socrates at first, philosophy was looking at the stars and trying to understand the universe and trying to understand where we are and who we are and what this world is. But then Socrates' realization is he had to look back and see that the human is actually what's interesting, and actually talking to any people and talking about what is courage, what is love, what is the good, what is happiness, and having these conversations where it's possible that Socrates knew more than them, but he wanted to understand it and have a dialogic moment, which is really what we're doing right now here. And this is why I said to you guys before, the amazing thing with podcasts is it opens up the conversational world again. And back to the point about second nature. So the second sailing is the realization of the human. So back to the second nature, when we talk about, oh, it's second nature to Nsima to roll this way, whereas when you did it, your first instinct were wrong. You roll out of an arm bar and you broke your arm yourself. It's a leg lock. The instinct is to go the wrong way, and you do that, you snap your ACL. Bye-bye. Yep. So you have to learn. So learning, the human capability of learning, which is why I find it so profound and interesting to understand humans, is second nature. It's training. Training is second nature. And that's the most profound thing, is that we can change our first instincts, which are often incorrect, to do something that is better. And we do that by learning, and that's the second nature thing. So I think it's so interesting, these ideas of what does that mean? Second nature is this it changes us, and we're no longer beasts.
Do you think they're incorrect? Sometimes our first instinct is incorrect because we're like beings that learn from errors?
Yeah, that's the magic. I think so, absolutely.
So we have an instinct that might be correct, but if we go the wrong way, we can just kind of backtrack and say, oh, I wonder if I try something different, what that would look like.
Absolutely. I'll go into another philosophic story, which I wanted to share with you guys. One of my favorite books is Gulliver's Travels. I don't know if you've seen the movie or read the book.
I think I've seen the movie.
So the movie, it's with Jack Black. If you saw there was a movie.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is it's actually a philosophic satirical critique of both the ancients and the moderns. So there's one story which I love, and it's about, and it's really relevant for our day and age. He's traveling. So Gulliver. So Jonathan Swift was a philosophic satirist that wrote about 300 years ago, and he was profoundly critical of some of the modern philosophic ideas of certainty, which started to come out with the science and modern science and this kind of stuff. And we're surrounded by that because fundamentally, there's so much information out there that wading through it is one of the hardest things there is. So how do you know what's true? How do you know what's not true? You can throw up your hands and give up, or you can say, well, this is my guy. I believe this scientist, or I believe that scientist, or my scientist says something different than the other scientist. So Gulliver's going through these travels, and people sort of remember that he's a giant, and there's the little people of Lilliput and this kind of a thing. If they kind of remember, there was a cartoon when we were all kids. So anyway, he continues his travels, and he finds this weird island called Laputa. And Laputa is this disc-like island that actually hovers, and it flies. There we go. So this is Gulliver.
Continue.
So anyway, so the island is this weird sort of flying saucer type disc that just flies over everywhere. And the Laputans, he makes fun of them. They're pretty much scientists, and they have this weird eye. One eye is a microscope and one eye is a telescope, but they can't see in front of them. And they're mathematical, and they're obsessed with mathematics and music, but theoretical music.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is theoretical, but anything that's practical, they're like, no, it doesn't fit our theories. So one example, they can't speak his language, he can't speak their language. They bring him up onto this island, and he's trying to understand them. And the king, they can't see in front of them, and they're always obsessed with their mathematical theories. And they have a servant that flaps, they're called flappers, that flap their eyes or their ears or their mouths so that they talk to each other because they're always so obsessed with these various theories.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly contemplating, kind of like the joke about Socrates that I said earlier. And he speaks to them, and they don't understand him, but he tries to figure out their language. And what they do is they get a tailor to give him clothes because his clothes are ruined. And the tailor comes to him, and he does quadrants of the earth, and he does all these calculations, but the clothes don't fit because the person that was doing it made a mistake in the calculation. But they didn't change the clothes because the calculations, according to them, were the correct calculations. The joke is that the theory had to be the theory, and it couldn't be that there was human error. Mm-hmm. So they continue, and the story ends with the Laputans where he makes fun of them. He talks about their women, and it's kind of like he's an adventurer and explorer. And the women are normal. They're not like the scientists, Laputans, and they don't like their husbands because their husbands are constantly contemplating all these things. So the women go down below to other normal people and are always running off with the gardener or like the footman or whatever because their husbands can't take care of them, even though they like them. So they're constantly, they can't conceive of like normal relationships with their wives. They want it. So the story goes that one of them is beaten by a footman. She's the prime minister's wife, but the prime minister's doing these calculations. He just can't satisfy her desires.
Yeah.
So this is 300 years ago, and it's very funny. But the idea is that sometimes there's a scientism as opposed to actual science, which is much more humble, which says, listen, we have a theory. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. Let's try. I mean, the one is we talk about calories, or we talk about how do people put on muscle? Well, we all know we're all meatheads. If you lift weights, we put on muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but is it mTOR signaling, or is it the small micro tears? Like, I don't know which theory is that. Theory is the Greek word theoria, which is to see.
Yeah.
So if you see it and it sticks, great. But if it doesn't stick, okay, next theory.
And if you got a microscope and a telescope, the person that's blind might see the best. Right?
Exactly.
Because they might just feel their way around and get to the right thing, right?
Exactly. So I think the thing is that we do things, we try things, and it could be like, was Charles Poliquin right on every percentage that he said? It's,
I think so. No.
Yeah, I think, but was it 117% that the dip was versus your 1RM bench, or was it 116? And if you're not, but I use those numbers. We use those numbers. Ben and I use those numbers.
It was wild to go to a seminar and have someone they got their hand up, and he'd be like, yes. And someone would be like, I got confused. How many seconds of a pause was it on the front squat? And Charles would just be like,
3.64. And the person's like, yeah, it's 3.64. It's like, no, I mean, there's rules and there's recipes. So I guess the thing is,
he would fuck with people. But his point was like, you got caught up on the wrong thing. I know that I prescribe a tempo, but it's just for me to be able to coach you. That's all it's for.
Exactly. I mean, the example was, I remember at a seminar, someone asked, he said, it's good to have 2 different heights of slant board. And Ben, Patrick, and I love slant boards. So Charles was, it's great. It's great for, to help with dorsiflexion and, to alleviate that and allow your knees to go further forward and more quad dominance. Use them all the time. Someone said, what angle, what exact degree of slant board? And he says 46.37 on the one and 32.6. And the person's writing it down. It's like, no, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Like, have 2 different ones. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
but people really like that precision, because in some ways, here's a cookie cutter way of coaching people. But for me, I always like figuring out each athlete.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. The magic is figuring out each athlete. I mean, and when you get bored of people, then stop coaching. But I think that's the cool thing. Is like, Mark was coaching a guy that was in here that was doing
Oscar.
and it's great. Oscar's great. Like, he was doing ART in him, and for his troubles, Mark coached him and whooped his ass. No, but the point is, you can see that Mark still loves coaching people because he wants to help people. He wants people to get better. He wants them to move better and have a great workout. And I think that's the magic of coaching. I think we all have to remember, and Charles taught me this, we're in the minority, people that actually love moving, like that we're trying to improve our bodies. And I think that's the thing that coaches should remember, that most people really see their bodies as their enemy. And if we can help them not see their body as their enemy, I think that's God's work. And I think, that's the sort of unification of what all of the quote unquote fitness industry should be doing, which is to try to help people not look at their bodies as their enemy and try to help people. And again, do I think the recipe that I use with, I'm called the ATG Coach with ATG, and as an interpretation of Charles Poliquin, and, and Ben and Keegan and I have sort of discussed this, and, they're great guys and great coaches, and it's a recipe. Like, fundamentally, it's a recipe. And do we think it's a great recipe? Absolutely. I've gotten great results with people, pain-free, performance, all that kind of stuff. Do I think it's the only recipe? No, but do I think people should use different recipes to actually try to be better and move better? Absolutely. And I think fundamentally people are happier when they do that. So that's, I don't know, that's my spiel on that one. But
With what you said, you said like there's an 8-step fundamental to what you guys do. Can you take us through what those fundamentals are?
Absolutely.
Because, understanding the fundamentals, I think that people can hear those things, but then take that and add in other things that may fall in line with what you guys believe is the way to do things.
I absolutely, it would be my pleasure. I think it's really great. Ben and I sat through this, and Keegan, and if people don't know, Keegan Smith is fantastic. He's really
we've had
great.
him on.
Yeah,
Can you just
Keegan's
pause
amazing.
and back up for just a second and
Yeah.
kind of explain a little bit of what you do
Okay.
with Ben, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So I own a performance facility in Toronto. I've owned it for over a decade. All of my coaches are Poliquin or ATG, and we help people one-on-one. That's what my business is, and that's what we do. And I got connected. I have to be grateful to you guys because, the last few years have been really hard. It was tough in Toronto and Canada.
It was COVID too?
Yep. With COVID, it was really hard from a business point of view. I'm grateful that we survived. I have to be grateful to my amazing team of coaches. They're amazing, like Greg, Jacqueline, Joe, Daniel, and Dave. They're just great people. And my wife for being very smart from a business point of view, that we survived and we're growing, which is great. We're opening a new facility, so I have to be grateful. And you guys, it was the first live thing I did in a couple of years. And when Ben was here, and the energy was amazing. So knees over toes guy Ben Patrick, we connected in person here, but we were texting for quite a while before. And Ben is a Charles guy, and he got phenomenal results with his body and his athletes with Poliquin's methods and his own interpretation thereof. And so we connected, and what Ben saw for me as a role with ATG is that now that the world's opening up again, there's room for in-person events because he's figured out the online method. I think Ben's cracked the code for online. The online world, his content is phenomenal. He's positive and he puts out great things. So my role, I think, is in the whole group is to really unify the in-person stuff and help coaches be better coaches. Because I think the desire is there, and because everyone's been locked up and hasn't traveled as much, I think it's really growing, and that's what we're going to do. So we're doing in-person level 2s and coaching coaches of the ATG method, which I can go through the 8 points. Again, and this is a recipe, and there's other recipes, but Ben and I and Keegan and all the ATG family, it's very heavily Poliquin, but it's how do we make it more accessible to a lot of people? And the magic of it is understanding that there's no high performance athlete and broken person. Everyone's human. And there's just a spectrum of how hard you make it. So, sledding is sledding. So the principle number 1 is, are you sledding? And how can you make it heavier? Can you go slower? Can you go faster? The great thing about sledding is it's great for everyone. And there we go. Like, that was a phenomenal event. It was really great just to be down there and show everyone.
Second live event, right?
It was great. It was phenomenal. Yeah. So there we go. ATG Basic number 1 of 8. Sled. Are you sledding? So there's different ways to do it. I think backward sledding's phenomenal. I think the two things is that for older people or broken people, it's a very easy entry point. But also, the truth of the matter is it's phenomenal for big NFL players who actually often their knees are blasted and they can't do a step up. So the entry point is actually to do backward sledding, which is pretty much a step up. So you're getting phenomenal movement in the knees and warming it and blood flow and actually connective tissue in the foot and all kinds of magical things without having to be overly technical. So that's number 1. So we sled, 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week.
Very passive movement. My son referred to it as advanced walking, which I thought was really smart. But, a lot of other movements that you go to do in the gym, they really accumulate, and they don't always accumulate in such a great way. Like if you have a banged up knee and you go and do a bunch of leg extensions, leg presses, you might have kind of caused more harm than good, but we have this mindset of like, I got to tough it out. It's legs day and I got to go do this. Meanwhile, if you pull the sled, you can hurt yourself doing anything. I should say that. Yeah. But meanwhile, if you pull the sled, it might be more restorative, especially if you do it kind of calmly, if you're in a state where your knee is banged up.
Exactly.
I mean, I've had my knee in tremendous amounts of pain, and there was points where I couldn't drag the sled backwards. My knee was so jacked up, but I could pull it forward.
Yep.
And I can get some sort of work, get some blood flow in that area. So
absolutely.
I think it's incredible, and it allows you to get in a lot of reps and allows you to get in a lot of great work without any damage.
Yeah, and that's the magic of it, and it's why it's number 1, because if that's all, and we talked about this, if it's even the only thing you do, magic, win. I think what was so great is seeing you coach Oscar is you gave him a win, and I think training has to be about that more than it has to be about bleeding the athlete.
He
or
was
bleeding
hyped
the client.
up, and then I talked to him about deadlifting, maybe in the next session, and then he picked up the trap bar for a second and was like, oh yeah, I could do this next time. And he certainly had a lot more energy, but I think that's the way, somewhere along the line we got screwed up and we made the workout just totally and completely annihilate you. You leave it all in the gym. And the gym, in my opinion, is supposed to most of the time make you feel a lot better rather than make you feel a lot worse.
Absolutely. I think it's a great lesson that I learned from a bunch of great coaches is, it's success leaves clues. If multiple people say it, it's great. It's minimum necessary dose. Minimum necessary dose is key. And I think sometimes people think maximal dose and it's a nuclear bomb and they try to annihilate people. But minimum necessary dose means you can come back and fight another day. And I think that's a magical thing. So sled's a magical thing with that. And you can then up it and you can go faster and you can put more weight on it. You can really work. You don't have to start there. So that's number 1. Number 2, I think it's one of those things that's the Ben Patrick special, but Charles also taught me this, and I've done it for years. I had a tear in my right knee and I have a tear in my left knee, but split squats are magical. So are you working towards perfecting the split squat?
Why are they so magical?
I think, the video we put out, it could very well be the greatest stretch, strengthen exercise there is for your lower body. So it helps the ankle, the knee, there it is. Like in some fantastic, that's Michelle, she has and Marcel and Isaac, they have phenomenal split squats.
You're hitting 3 different joints at a time, but per leg. So you're hitting 6 joints because let's not forget about that back knee. Anyone that has a wonky knee may have noticed that when they try like a lunge, sometimes the back knee is the one that actually hurts.
Exactly.
And if you look at the positioning of the knees over toes, your knee is way over your toe in an ATG split squat, with the back leg even more so than the front leg.
Have you guys started selling those buddies, by the way, yet?
They're coming out. I actually brought my pair here so we can mess with them. They're phenomenal. It's one of those brilliant things that he's really, Ben's brilliant. And that solution for people's heels, for traveling, for squatting, for step ups, for split squats, I love it. And I think that's the thing is like, as you work on better dorsiflexion, that ability to wedge that in, it's a phenomenal tool. It's great. They're going to see, it'll sell out but it's a great tool.
Yeah, I love them.
Can you talk a little bit more about like that, why you think it's such a good stretch? Because I think there's a lot of utility in
absolutely
like that knee being real open like that, right?
Yeah. So, what's great about it is that you're driving the front knee forward and you're getting more dorsiflexion in the ankle. So there's a lot of data about how the better you dorsiflex in any sport, the better you can dorsiflex, which is, your toe, your calf's flexibility, the lower your chances of lower body injury.
But are you getting a good dorsiflexion?
Oh yes,
with
absolutely. Even with the heel, yes.
Even with the thing doing some of the work for you,
yes,
kind of slanting.
Yes. Well, it's just that you're stable on it. It really doesn't move.
Okay.
So again, like it's not to say that a flat foot split squat isn't the best, but it's that you can do that in that. And Ben's idea of that was to say actually, like he got really good, and his split squat is absolutely perfect.
It's fucking perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got there with a weightlifting shoe. So he thought about it. He's like, wait a minute, not everyone has a weightlifting shoe which already has an elevation.
Mm-hmm.
So why not have this wedge to have it for people who don't have it? And you can also squat on it and elevate it. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think the thing is, I would say you can get that magical benefit of driving the knee as far forward as you can without the ankle inhibiting that progress as you work towards getting better dorsiflexion. Dorsiflexion takes so much time. There's so many and there's so much in the, you have the barefoot sprinter who's awesome, like Graham. There's so much stuff going on in the feet. There's 4 layers of muscle in the foot. There's so many, the Achilles tendon is really tight. Some people are really genetically tight. There's all kinds of stuff. So as you work towards better dorsiflexion, why not get the benefit of a heel elevation, both in your squat and your split squat? And I think that's a great solution. So that's, you open up the hip, the knee, the ankle, it's great. Your glutes work, your hamstrings are working in the bottom position. It's really fantastic exercise. So, and the thing is, I would say, Mark and I were talking about this, is that a lot of times people see, and because Ben has blown up so much, I guess in some ways my job is to articulate the nuance of it, which is there's the split squat and people see it and say, body weight only. No, use load when appropriate. And I think we were talking about the philosophical divide of a lot of people, and you can just say agree to disagree, is we're in the school of thought of things range of motion before strength. Mm-hmm. And other people think the other way around, and that's totally fine. It's, back to theory. If it sticks, use that one. If it doesn't stick, use a different one.
Maybe put a priority on whatever's not addressed.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Like we're talking about for some people that are like mobile, we'll make them stronger in certain positions. Like it's great. So we believe in loading it. And I think and I think we were talking about this earlier, Mark, is relatively in different, more compromised positions spinally. For example, we're talking about, rounded back good mornings or deadlifts. You were doing it with 500 pounds, and someone can say, that's astronomical, that's too heavy. But too heavy for who? You're squatting 1,000, your rounded back deadlift is like 500 is nothing. You do that for reps for cardio. Mm-hmm. So it's all relative. So when someone says, okay, well, what's the number? Okay, well, am I putting 450 pounds on someone's back for a split squat? No. But if they can split squat 450, if they can back squat 450 perfectly, then maybe a 200-pound good split squat is actually totally fine. So there's some numbers that we're talking about, 75% of body weight we're playing with. That's something that I think people get really good results from an elasticity and a mobility and a strength point of view, where it's the combo of them all, but we're not putting 500 pounds on. And I would say I probably wouldn't do less than 5 reps on a split squat. So it's not something that it's like, yay, 1 rep max. There's the joke. It's like the guy doing a 1 rep max rotator cuff. It's like, no, you don't need that. That's not. It's
what I do find interesting though is one of the things that Poliquin did that was quite different than a lot of other coaches is he would take rotator cuff movements and he would train them heavy. Yeah, and they weren't for 1 rep maxes. No. But, and I think you're seeing Ben do some of that as well. And you were mentioning that he has guys that are squatting 400 or 500 pounds with chains on the bar, and they're putting their butt on the ground. He just doesn't show all that stuff all the time. Yeah,
it's an interesting thing. Like I talk to him a lot, and now again, I think it's an interesting thing that with fame, people interpret things that he doesn't say. So I got an old Poliquin guy who's a good friend of mine who's, I posted him squatting, and he's like, "Oh, Ben Patrick squats?" I'm like, "Yeah, he squats a ton." And he's got other guys so he had his D1 high school athletes, and he showed me videos of them. He's like, "I just don't put that out because the narrative now is knees over toes guy." And it's like, people message him and say like, "Well, do you know anything about the shoulder?" Of course he knows things about the shoulder, but now they think he's just knees over toes guy. So in some ways that's where I come in. I'm like, yeah, I can do a whole shoulder. Like I've rehabbed so many shoulders, but the ATG system or the Ben Patrick system is known as the knees over toes. Yeah, but
there's
that's
shoulder
for that
work in there.
There's
though.
A ton of shoulder work. Exactly. So speaking, we'll probably do some more rotator cuff after. So this is actually a great Charles story, which is, you know what a Cuban press is?
I believe I know what one is, yes. I probably do it incorrectly, but yes.
Again, but a Cuban press, the story is Charles actually invented it, which this is the story so far as I know, is that he had a guy that was like squat big, bench big, lift big, remedial work. I'm not doing rotator cuff. I'm not doing calf work. I'm not doing any remedial work. Just give me the big lifts. Let's go. And he was trying to get the guy to do remedial work, and he was like, oh, there's something that the Cuban weightlifting team is doing. You know, you're always selling. He's like, the guy's like, oh, the Cuban weightlifting team's doing? Yeah, it's a secret exercise. Let me teach you. So a Cuban press. So a Cuban press, if you see it or whatever, it's pretty much a muscle snatch just without the legs. So muscle snatch. So from my understanding, the rotator cuff is actually a fast twitch muscle. But most people don't even, so why are we doing 4-second lower and high rep rotate? Most people don't even have a rotator cuff. So you first have to hypertrophy the thing, build it up before you can go, there we go. That's a dumbbell Cuban press. Pretty much, kind of. That's a Cuban rotation more, whatever. But if he's going to go
like
all the way.
upright row into a rotation.
It's an upright two into rotation. So that's kind of a Cuban press.
Into like an L.
Yeah. So it's more flowy, but that's a pretty good rendition.
It also looks a little bit similar to like dumbbell cleans.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is that it's fundamentally a muscle snatch, which is really, you're not dropping into it or catching into it. So really like the fastest movement for rotator cuff is a snatch. But most people don't have the ability. So that's the pinnacle of rotator cuff work, but we regress it. And that's the other genius, I think, of Charles Poliquin and ATG and Ben Patrick is like the magic of regression. So everyone can do rotator cuff work, but you know, you get a weightlifter in that their rotator is pretty good. We can muscle snatch or do a whole bunch of other stuff. So, you know, baseball player, they go so fast forward. So you can only go as fast as you can slow down. So the rotator cuff is the opposite, the antagonist to internal rotation of the humerus. So if you really increase your rotator cuff strength, everything internal humerus, so that's bench pressing and any throwing motion and any punching motion actually gets better. So that's a magical, and we'll get to that. That's actually a later point in the ATG special shoot.
I have a question.
I have an answer, but you go first.
Now, one comment you see from certain groups online when they see people doing the split squat, I'm not going to name these groups, but people know when I say it, is like, oh, these guys are going to be needing knee replacements in the next 5 to 10 years. What do you think about that? Like, why? Like, number one, you know, people are thinking because they're going into such deep ranges and they're using load, like their knees aren't going to be able to handle this over time. And even Seidman has mentioned that when we were podcasting with him that, you know, he thinks people need to be more careful when trying to lift with those ranges of motion. So what is the reasoning behind it? Why is it actually more beneficial over time?
So I would say two things. I would say, let's be devil's advocate, where I would argue pro Seidman.
Okay.
And again, like, I think everyone's trying to help
And it's not
people.
specifically
No,
Seidman,
I
by the way.
understand.
There's
Schools of thought that are like, that's dangerous, all this kind of stuff. So I would say, you know, I think this is something that I've heard weightlifting coaches talk about, powerlifting coaches talk about, like you only have so many maxes in you. And I think there's wisdom in that. So it's possible that if I were to continue with that line of thinking, you'd say you only have so many deep knee bends in you. Let's assume that that's sort of the correlation where it's like, careful, you only have so many of those in you. There was a theory a long time ago, I don't know if you guys remember this, where you only have so many breaths in you. So if you learn to breathe slower, you can extend your life. You know, it's a theory. Does it stick? It doesn't stick for me. I don't buy it. It doesn't make sense to me. I've not seen that evidence. I've seen the opposite. I'm actually of the other school, which is if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's what I would say. That would be my answer. That would be the theoretical heuristic that I would say. That would be like, okay, I'm persuaded by that more than you've only got so many in you.
The only way to fight it is to do it more.
Yeah.
And
now again,
use it
like
responsibly though.
Yeah, but again, I would say, and I think it's all about the dose. I think that's the question. And I think I like Nassim Taleb, who talks about these things of anti-fragility. You know, humans are adaptable. Like if we believe that, and I think it is, there's too much evidence, you know, for me to not think that. The question is what the stimulus is. So, you know, the whole idea of stress, you know, stress is neutral. There's eustress, which is from the Greek good, which comes from eudaimonia is the word for happiness. It's the good demon, and distress is bad. So it depends on how much stress. So that's the dose. So if suddenly, you know, a grandma comes in that hasn't, you know, Mark had a great point. It's like, when is the last time someone brought their hips below their knees? And she hasn't done it in 60 years. And suddenly you're gonna be like, all right, full split squat, let's go with like dumbbells or it's like, no, snap. Okay, so then someone says, well, split squats are dangerous. It's like, no, the dose was too high. So you had the wonderful idea Ben was showing me with the band, the reverse band. It's sort of you know, it's assisted split squats. So do I think I would start that with grandma who hasn't done it? Absolutely. Would I say, okay, 75% body weight on your back, let's go? No, like, So I think fundamentally understanding the regression, but that's the coach's eye. So I think the magic is saying like, well, what can I try with the person?
Yeah. How much one-legged stuff have you done in the last 10 years?
Exactly.
And now you go on one leg and you just put double the weight that they're used to on one side. And then it might not be a good idea.
And to be fair, sometimes people, who are very obese, to put them on one leg is actually way too much. So actually you get them to actually just squat on a slant board, maybe holding onto something. That might be a better move before you start the split squat. But that doesn't mean it's not still principle number 2, which is not have the perfect split squat. Mine isn't. It's a work in progress. Like the point is work towards a perfect split squat. So the idea is that you could be able to do that going on in your life. I mean, Ben's mom is a phenomenal example of it. She had terrible knees and her split squat's perfection. And she can squat all the way down and play with the grandkid with Onyx, who's an adorable little baby. Like he's great. He
pooped on his desk.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
He took a shit on this desk.
Yeah, that makes sense. He marked his territory. He marked his territory. Yeah, his territory. I love that kid. That kid's adorable. That kid is going to be the best salesperson ever. He's those eyes and looking at you and just like with that blonde hair, it's easy. He'll just get whatever he wants.
He's got it down already.
Yeah, he's got it down. But that's what I would say on that. I mean, and again, like I've just seen too much evidence contra to that. And fundamentally from like, again, grandmas to high performance athletes, that it's only improved them. Again, but I think it's how do you coach it? I think the difficulty with lifting, and we can get on into all the details, is how you teach it. And I think fundamentally the difference between, you're into running now and sprinting and all this kind of stuff. Running's easy for people because all you have to do is buy a pair of shoes and walk out the door and do it. The problem is that a significant quantity of people are too out of shape and their knees are bashed up and all kinds of stuff. So often they hurt themselves. They have no business running, but it's easy. No one's going to tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong. So if someone came into your office or whatever and said, oh, I ran 5K today, you'd say, high five, good job. But if you saw a video, it might be like, you have no business doing that. Your psoas isn't properly firing. Your glutes are terrible. Your knees are valgus, and your ankles. Oh my God. Like, no. You need a 6-month training regimen before you even, but no one will say that. Whereas people walk into the gym and it's like, what the heck, what are you doing? Look at that gym fail or whatever. But the point is that the technical ability is so high we're still debating things. Like maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe Charles was wrong on everything. Maybe we're all wrong on everything, but in the other school of thought is totally right. But the point is that the technical aspects of lifting is so debated and hard that most people are like, well, I'm not even going to wade into that. And I think in some ways, because we're squabbling so much, it's kind of like, well, I'm not even, someone who's like, well, I hate my body and it's too complicated. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to go for a Peloton or a bike ride or whatever. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I actually think training is the magic, is so magical. Men, women, kids, old, young, it's so magical. But again, like, do I think there's better recipes and worse recipes? Yes. Maybe I'm wrong.
All these movements are made up too. So
exactly,
like, by whose standards are you trying to reach? And I guess you could say like there are things that we learned where we have with a high level of belief. We could say we believe this to be a little bit safer. But I think all of us have gotten hurt before going to try to do an exercise, and we believe that we try to do all this stuff. I mean, how do we know certain things are true? How do we really, truly know that you have to brace for a squat? I mean, maybe someone could argue, like I've seen Stan Efferding like breathe on the way down, like in a squat. Like I've seen a lot of different, that doesn't mean that let's try to squat like that either. But I've seen a lot of different things. Like what if breathing during your squat helps you relax more? What kind of squats are you doing? How many reps? How do we know that squatting with an Olympic lifting shoe is wise, or to use a slant board is a good idea, when we could just squat down as low as possible and have our heels, maybe your heels do come off the ground, but maybe there's benefit to that. Maybe that's too dangerous. And maybe that puts a governor on the exercise so you don't lift too, quote unquote, too heavy. And maybe that's not a bad idea. Just like going out and sprinting barefoot. It presents, sometimes having like a limiter on an exercise due to the way that you chose to do it, sometimes is a really beautiful or wonderful thing. Putting chains on the bar, or bands on the bar. You use less bar weight. Bodybuilders, I think people can bodybuild forever pretty much because of the amount of reps that you do and a drop set. Like there's nothing safer in the world than going to the gym, using a bunch of cables, using a bunch of machines and doing a bunch of drop sets. I think you can do that the rest of your life.
Yeah, I agree. I think fundamentally the understanding is that all of the toys we have, and if you're a meathead, you like toys. Like I remember talking to Charles once. He's like, "Look, this new thing I got." I'm like, "Charles, listen, you know,
in his basement.
Oh my God. Like, you know, and one of my pride and joys is I actually have the dumbbell set that was in his house. So that, you know, part of Charles is in my facility. And, you know, so, but I think one of those things is that, you know, as meatheads, you raise your hand, you say, "Hi, my name is Charles Poliquin. My name is Mark Bell. My name is Nsima. My name is Ben Clarfield. And it's been 2 months since my last purchase of a meat." Like we get excited with the toys, but at the end of the day, they're just toys. Right, and they're a tool. So I think being wedded to so one of my NHLers, he asked me, he's like, "What do you think? Squatting, not squatting?" That, and I said, "Look, it's just a tool. The barbell's just a tool. Like my barbell's more expensive than a different barbell, whatever. Like, but it's just a tool." And I think fundamentally, if you think about human movement, you understand the arbitrary nature of all these tools, and thinking that one tool is better than another tool. Yeah, I mean, some tools are better than other tools for different jobs, but the question is, what's the job? What are you trying to do? So is it wrong to squat all the way down onto your toes? No, it's a pretty fundamental human movement, and you should be able to do that too. Why not? But maybe that's not, let's put on max load first. Like, and I think that's the thing. I think there's a ton of room for exploration. And I think that's...
Look at like a Turkish getup.
Yeah.
Like what is that? What the hell kind of made up exercise is that? Yeah. But it can be a great exercise. But someone's like, hey, getting up off the ground sometimes isn't easy. Let's make it more challenging. And it will, if you do it a specific way, you're loading, you know, your body different ways. It could be challenging on your shoulders and so forth, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is it's an interesting thing when, you know, again, I think there's something about thinking about lifting, and I guess like back to our sort of the system, the ATG system, call it what you will, is what is it for? And I think fundamentally realizing that it's not a sport the way I see lifting, and it's not about simply chasing the numbers on the bar where I feel like you have to improve by 2% to 5% every week or else you're a bad person or whatever. Now, the thing is that when your sport's powerlifting, that's the sport. So you took a hit on your body in some ways because you're trying to achieve something monumental, and you did it. That's amazing. But, you know, there's a toll. So but that's your sport. But if your sport is something different, like for example, Ben Patrick, he's so brilliant at how he lifts because he always remembers that it's for basketball. And he might not play basketball for 4 months, but in his head, it allows him to be much more humble in the gym. And be capable of not having an ego in the sense where it's like, yeah, I have to hit this number or I'm going to do it because everyone's watching or whatever. And we all have done that, and that's where we get hurt. But I think there's something brilliant about thinking about lifting for something else. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't enjoy the process. I think you're brilliant about this. I've observed you, and you are a process guy. It's not simple, but maybe it's because you've achieved such excellence in lifting that you don't think about that anymore in the same way. But, you know, Nsima, I sympathize with Nsima because, you know, Nsima's still in his athletic career of jiu-jitsu where there's goals of achieving. So in some ways it's, but at the same time, maybe it's also better for you because in some ways the gym allows you to lift for jiu-jitsu. It allowed me to be humble when I started jiu-jitsu because instead of being like, well, I squatted this last week, I have to squat more or I'm a loser.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no, actually, like I just rolled with like Nsima. Yeah, there's no way in hell I'm hitting anything anywhere near a max the next day. Calm down, do something to make your body feel good. So I think that's the thing. It's like thinking about what lifting is for. And for some people, it's just living better life. You know, like Ben's mom, it's like to pick up her grandkid. That's better. She can carry her groceries. And I think there's so much where if we can help people do that, and that's, I would say, the ATG system is fundamentally for pain-free movement, that on top of that, we can layer performance. So it's pain-free movement with range of motion, with certain movements that we think are more beneficial to spend time on. Bang for buck, let's put it that way. So Sled's 1, split squats 2, 3 is squat. I think squatting is a fundamental human movement. I think we think it's phenomenal for your knees, and we think all the way down, full range of motion. If you elevate your heels, that's totally fine. You can work towards better dorsiflexion, but not just do it body weight, but slowly get better and slowly add load. So long as it's pain-free and and the performance aspect of that is phenomenal. Oh, there we go.
PowerProject family, how's it going? I hope you guys are enjoying the episode. And I want to tell you, sometimes when you're a lifter, you need certain pieces of equipment that's going to help you perform a little better in the gym. Just like the hip circle is going to help warm up your hips, knee sleeves are going to keep your knees warm when you're squatting. The slingshot's going to help you bench a little bit more. But the cool thing is that Mark made all of this equipment when he was in the middle of his powerlifting career because he wanted equipment that could help him perform better as it can also help you perform better. The cool thing is that all this equipment was made for lifters by lifters. Andrew, could you tell them how to get it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com, and at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
What do you have on your feet right there, by the way?
Those are, I have really cool lifting shoes. I have a shoe problem. I know you guys have shoe problems too. Those are Adidas, and it's like, I can't remember what it's called, but they're really cool Adidas that there's no shoelace.
Yeah.
It's a click. It's like a bike clicky thing. Oh, they're so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I have like 5 pairs. It's silly. Like
So-
lifting shoes.
The third is just any type of squat
Yeah,
low.
all the way down. Squat
All
low.
the way down.
Yeah.
And again, I want to highlight something you mentioned when we were talking about, people saying that going that deep in split squats is going to cause knee replacements. Dosage. I like the fact that there's not a focus on how much. Like there are goals, there are principles of like, okay,
Yes.
split squat, aim for over a long period of time 75% of body weight, but it's not. Like when you see people lift for powerlifting, you're right. The goal is to see that weight on the bar go up over time, but that doesn't necessarily lead to you moving better as a human being or living a more pain-free life, right? Like when we go into the gym, when we leave, we want to feel better than we came in. When we're going through daily life, we don't want to have lower back pain. We don't want to have knee pain because we're focused on in the gym doing things that are going to help us move better, live better, and still build more muscle. But the load, as important as that is not and should not be the focus. It should be the quality of the movement with the load that you're using. And if the movement isn't quality with the load you're using, lower that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like exactly. Again, like, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is to think about, back to the philosophy. Modernity is about instant gratification. Social media is about instant gratification. You guys, I have to be grateful to you guys and to Ben and to Keegan for showing me that the social media, I mean, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that, because fundamentally I'm grateful for that. And I've learned that there is positivity in that world, even though there's so much crazy stuff and negativity and like weird stuff and whatever. But fundamentally, I mean, again, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you guys' brilliance about putting out such positivity. But what what I sell, what we sell, what Ben Patrick sells actually is anti-modern. And what do I mean by that? It's not about instant gratification. And I think that's the problem of all of what we do. If we believe that lifting weights and eating better and taking care of your body and doing all the recovery stuff and saunas and all this kind of stuff, all these habits, sometimes when you're doing them, they don't feel like eating a pizza and like drinking a beer or whatever. Like that's instant gratification. Clicking the like, Amazon one click buy, that's instant gratification. And in some ways what we sell is, oh, this is going to take a long while. You're not going to be very good at it. And it's going to be kind of like uncomfortable as you do that. Like that's anti-modern. Yeah. And I think fundamentally, if you can sell that, you're a genius. And I think Ben's a genius of it. You're a genius of it. Both of you, like you're really good at that. I'm pretty good at persuading people in person with that. How do you make that argument to do the things that everyone knows is good for them, but it kind of sucks? Yeah. And they don't like it. So how do you make it feel like it's got a better purpose? And I think what we do with the ATG stuff is we're not saying, if you don't do this, you're a loser. It's more like, I think you'll do really well if you spend a significant quantity of time slowly progressing to make sure that the technique is really good and slowly adding load. But it's not sexy. But again, like, how do you make the thing that's not sexy but it's really good for people, again, that we think? So I think that's the answer. The answer is, yeah, I mean, listen, like Ben has goals of upping his squat, but not to the detriment of the quality of his movement. So he knows if he keeps squatting every week, the weight will go up. It has. That's how it works. Again, not simply, it's not linear, but if you change stimulus and you play with it and change one week and, pauses the other, whatever the various ways. So the things that we've tried not to make it is there's many different ways of periodizing these models. And I have ways, and Charles likes undulating periodization. There's all kinds of, there's west side, there's all kinds of different methods. And it's not like, no, what Charles said was perfect, undulating. No, there's different ways. He had different ways of doing it. Sometimes he did linear, sometimes he did other stuff, sometimes he did descending. There's all kinds of different ways. And people can really geek out on like what percentages to go in. And I think they're great. I think that's a phenomenal way to add to the recipe. But I think the genius of Ben, Charles, and the way I interpret it is actually, I think the movement is first. And so make sure that the technique and the form comes first. And it's the trick is how do you sell it such that the client or athlete doesn't get bored. So you can vary the rep, you can vary the sets, you can vary the tempo, you can vary the implement. So you can do split squats with a barbell on your back, or you can do split squats with a barbell on your front, or you can do dumbbells or low pulley or pauses or 1 1/4. And these are all methods that have different purposes, but at the same time, it's how do you get someone to continue to do split squats, or can you do squats? And you can box squat sometimes, and you can do different squat, like you can do partials. Like the world won't end if you do that. But I think you should continue to squat and make it better. Like, so that's the third principle. But I think it's a hard thing to sell that, to say it's going to take a long time. Like, I could tell a story, like Ben had a great story when I was talking about a split squat. People were like, well, I'm special. They messaged in and, he says, I wasn't trying to be mean, but the person had done 60 split squats on our program. And I said, his response, this is what he said. My response was like, have you done 10,000 split squats yet? I was like, what? No, I've got a special condition. And he's like, well, you don't. Or that might very well be, but you're asking us for the recipe that's the solution to your problem. This is what we think. Have you done the 10,000 yet? And we could play the 10,000 hour idea. But the point is, like, have you done enough reps for it to get good? Well, keep doing it and it'll get better. But like 10,000 straight split squats is pretty boring. So you got to change it. You do dumbbells once and you do barbell. The point is, how do you keep doing the thing to get good at the thing? So that you can enjoy the process. And I think there's part of that, because you will feel better, but there's no miracle cure. So that's that one. So 3. 4, number 4 is, are they getting stronger hamstrings at least twice a week? And that's knee flexion. There we go. The magical Ben Patrick. That's an anatomy lesson right there. So knee flexion and hip extension. And there's different ways of doing that. So I'm a big fan of leg curls. Charles was a big fan of leg curls. Ben is too.
Like lying leg curls?
Lying leg curls, kneeling leg curls. Charles had 8 different leg curl machines in his facility. I only have 2. Well, and the Nordic, so 3. But that's for knee flexion. But hip extension, there's all kinds of different RDLs, seated good mornings. Ben's seated good morning is perfect. Like, it's great all the way.
By the way, what would you say is the best Nordic implement? Because like there's a lot out there.
I personally like the Atlantis one the best.
Atlantis?
Yeah, that's what I have, and I've done the Rogue one, and the other ones. Like, Atlantis is really, really, I have to say, and it's great. I like it because it's shorter. And I like your solution with the belt, but I think that's MacGyver. I prefer a bench.
Yeah.
The Rogue one's, I think, a bit. The Rogue one's really nice too. It's just too. I don't like it as long, and it's just they're a little bigger, and so like moving them around a gym is a little harder. But again, they're good. Yeah, I think they're great, and I think more people are going to come out with Nordic benches, and are great. Like, yeah. So I think again, like, hip extension's great also for back health. Like, it's not just for the hamstrings, but yeah. Number 5, this is the one that we were talking about. Have they hit the external rotator criteria, which is dumbbell elbow on knee for 10% of body weight minimum.
Okay.
So we have the 8 principles, but we also have the freak list, which is what our level 2 coaches do. So I coach them up and show them that there's the basics, which everyone can do forever. But then there's freak lists, which the goal was to get, Ben and I were talking about getting you to do the freak list type stuff. But anyway, but the point is that it doesn't guarantee you to be a freak, but it allows your abilities to expand in ways that are structurally balanced, such that there's not really weak links. So that's the idea of the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, knee flexion is key for knee health, and it's key for athletic performance. So the cool thing is that I don't think there's a difference between health and athletic performance. It's just a spectrum. So people fundamentally forget when they're training properly. I think rehab should feel like training. I don't think it should feel like a boring kind of thing. So as people progress and get stronger, they forget that they were in pain, which is such a wonderful thing to see. And then suddenly their goals become, ooh, I want to do more Nordics or more. And like, you remember you were in pain? It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not in pain anymore. Yeah. And it's a spectrum. There's no, this is rehab, this is training. I think the magic of that is.
I like what you're saying there, because while we could recognize there's a difference between like the high level athlete who has these specific goals, that's training a very specific way. They're dripping in sweat after every workout. And we also want to make exercise more accessible to people. So we don't always want to sell that that's the only way to train. However, if you get somebody in the gym and they're 50 years old and you say, hey, I'd love to start you out with this, 12-inch box jump. And they say, well, I would love to do that, but I haven't jumped in a really long time. And then if you said, why? It would say, well, because, my knees, this and that hurts, right? And so, obviously you wouldn't want to like tempt somebody with something like that, but I'm just saying, like, people don't really understand what an inhibition pain is and how pain, it's not because you don't have discipline. You're on the couch because you have bad experiences previously, or you have some sort of pain that is preventing you from just getting going sometimes. Last time I did that, my ankle really hurt. You mentioned the 10,000 reps with an ATG split squat. How does somebody get to do the very thing that is like annoying to them, distracting to them? Like, that you're doing something new or different or challenging when you start really thinking about a lot of other stuff. So you might go to show me something and I'm like, all I feel is like a pull in my hip really bad. Like what? And you're trying to show me something for my knee. Like I can't even concentrate on the movement. So I find all this to be really interesting and fascinating. It's like, how do we get the average person to understand you're in way more pain than you even can imagine, than you could even think, because you don't even know what the opposite of the way that you currently feel is. You don't even understand that in 3 weeks, maybe even sometimes in just a handful of days, you can feel way better than the way that you feel right now. And I know you got to bring your kid to soccer. I know that you go to church on Sunday. I know you have a rigorous schedule. But can you just do a little bit better? Can you trust me to like do some of this stuff? Because when you do some of this stuff, it's going to light your world on fire. You're going to feel better. Once that pain starts to subside, now we got momentum and you can start to move with less pain over time and hopefully get you pain free.
I think that's, and it's brilliant the way you articulated that. I think the thing is to realize, how do you get some, like, I mean, the magic of it all is regression. The magic of all of it is regression.
No, but I want to do what you did. You know what I mean? Like that's where people's mind, like, I saw Nsima do that. Like
I'll do that now. Yeah. We're talking.
Why do I got to be in kindergarten? Like, why can't I play?
Yeah.
Why can't I play in the sand with him? You know? So
the thing is to sell to sell the boring is sexy. And that's the thing. I was talking to one of the coaches that I was coaching up, and he was saying he got someone saying, oh, well, how come I don't understand. I was doing the pancake stretch that Ben does? Like where he's like, his legs are spread out and he puts his chest on the floor. He's like, well, I was doing it. And how come, I think I was doing it wrong. I did it for the first time. And how come my chest wasn't touching the floor? And it's like, well, how come I wasn't tapping out black belts on my first, like, I'm a pretty big, strong guy. It's like, well, cause you don't like you haven't done the reps. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is that for those of us that love this and do this and love the process, it's hard to articulate to someone, yeah, it's a process that's going to take a while. So how do you sell the long term? You can sell the long term by the short term wins. And I think that's the thing, is that getting someone a win that they can do in the workout instead of being like, I'm going to crush them as their coach. Well, that's useless, because then they're like, wow, my coach just crushed me. I can't walk for 2 weeks. It's like, well, that's great, because they can't pick up their kid, their grocery, and they're like, kind of like, wow, it was so hardcore, but they're going to come in the next day and they're going to give 0. They can't even do it. And they think that that's good. It's like, no, we're joking. Like, I want a shirt that says, kids, just give me 85%. Like, I don't want 110%. It's too much. There's only so many you can do. Mm-hmm. So that getting a win in the one workout and then doing it 2 times, 3 times, oh man, I feel wow, I didn't know I could feel so good.
85% is too much. If you're trying to get stronger, exactly. Like it depends on what you're trying to get better for. I'd say like maybe 70, 75%. Right. And people are going to take it too far. Mm-hmm. Andrew, hop in on some of this, buddy.
Well, real quick, for the Gulliver's
Travels. Yeah.
What was the island called?
La Puta.
Okay, so puta is bitch. It's prostitute, whore, or whatever in Spanish.
He has a whole he has an etymology of the word, and that he's sort of pretending to try and understand what the word. It's pretty funny.
That is interesting. But piggybacking off of what Mark was saying, because I've tried to help people with various things.
More caffeine.
There you go.
Let's go.
Damn, a whole monster.
I need to make sure I don't have a booger in my nose. Y'all be right back.
You'll be fine. But in trying to help people, whether it be diet or like knee pain or back pain, whatever it is damn near impossible to be like, hey, you're going to start here, but we're going to have to take a few steps backwards. But on top of that, how do you convince somebody like, okay, like whatever the movement is, you guys know way more than me, but it's like, yeah, it is going to kind of hurt, whether it be like even just putting ice on something, if that's the recommendation. It's like, oh, that's really uncomfortable. I don't like that. I want to go back to be just laying down, whatever it may be. How do you just tell somebody like, hey, dude, like it's going to kind of suck for a little bit?
That's a good question. So the question is when someone's like, oh my God, I think I just tore my knee. And you say like, well, did you actually just tear your knee? Or is it like, it's kind of uncomfortable? There's 2 types of pain. Is it, oh my God, I just snapped my arm? Or is it like, yeah, this is super uncomfortable. I'm not used to this movement. And the body's like, whatever. So I also say is like, our bodies are laziness machines. Yes. They like the way they are.
Yes. And
so to change, you're going to bring some stimulus, and your body is going to look at you and be like, F you, man. I don't want to change. So when I say that, it's again, everything's an argument. You're selling. This is a selling. Is this true? Is this not true? It doesn't matter. If the person's like, oh, fair enough, my body is a laziness machine. Like it's just words. But like if it persuades the person to be like, oh, okay, I'll deal with a little bit of discomfort because my body really doesn't want to change, but we're going to win together against this body of mine. Hey, cool. Then they do another rep or two and they're like, but it's different if they're like, I think I'm going to snap my elbow off. Okay, well, all right, but a lot of people that are noobs, quote unquote, can't differentiate those two. They think their arm is literally going to snap off. And it's like, no, you just have like not done that in forever. And so it feels super weird and awkward. And your body's like, I don't like awkward. Awkward makes me look stupid. Listen, the other thing is flattery is a useful tool. I tell people when they walk in, it's an amazing thing. Those of us on the side of loving movement and that it's so obvious and natural, like Mark can walk into any gym on the planet and he will not be intimidated by anyone because he's squatted over 1,000 pounds. The amount of people that have done that are so minuscule. And he's also a confident guy. Like he doesn't walk in and think like, oh God, they're all so intimidated. That's not.
They're looking at me.
Yeah. Like, but so many people, like, and it's hard for us, I think for those of us on the side of loving movement, I feel great with the gym. I'll walk in and be like, oh, those barbells are garbage compared to the ones I have. Like, it's all so silly because we forget that there's so many people that are so terrified of their body and so terrified of walking into the gym that it's our job to make them feel comfortable. So you can say, listen, actually, when someone comes to me and I say they're going to spend thousands of dollars on my services, such as life, that's the nature of the beast. But I say, listen, beyond that fact, it actually takes a lot of courage to come in and work on your weak links. And that's the first thing I say to them. It comes to have someone tell you you're fat, you're weak, you're tight, you're out of condition. And I'm not saying that to be mean to them. I'm just saying, well, clearly if that wasn't the case, they wouldn't be coming to me. So these are the metrics. You're weak on this, and it doesn't make you a bad person. You have excess body fat. I'm not saying that they're a bad person morally. I'm just saying this is true because or else they wouldn't come to me to try and alleviate these things and fix them. So I always say to them, I'm like, listen, it takes supreme courage to come in and say, you know what, I'm going to work on myself and I'm going to ask for help. That is a courageous thing. It's a very smart rhetorical ploy because I'm complimenting them on their courage, even though I'm saying you're fat or you're overweight or whatever it might be, the weak link that I'm there to help. So say it's going to be some uncomfortable stuff because you're working on things that your body doesn't want to do. So that would be you have to persuade. Persuasion is being a coach is all about selling or persuasion. It's not lying. It's you're trying to make a case that they're like, yeah, fair enough, I'll do that. And it's the same thing with nutrition. You want to say, okay, you're going to go full carnivore. You're not even going to touch fruit to someone who's like, oh my God, like, how about we get them to like even have a protein shake for breakfast? Maybe, right? Whatever. Like, or maybe have like a vegetable or some fruit or something semi-decent or not eat junk. Like, it's the other thing I learned from Charles, it was a great way of putting it. He's like, everything is built on the speed of trust. And you can make asks of people of what to do when you've built trust, and that takes time. And that's an anti-modern thing, patience and time and building a relationship.
Yeah, because it's freaking disheartening, when it's just like, oh, like I said, try this whatever thing, and it's like, that hurts, or like, that's uncomfortable. You're just like, dude, but like trust me, like it's gonna get better, and then you're gonna get out of whatever that pain is. So, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then, so the other thing I was wondering too is like, we have a shit ton of power lifters listening. We have a shit ton of, bodybuilders. Hopefully we do. But like, it's not necessarily like the biggest thing on their radar, which is like, how do I get more bendy? It's like, no, how do I get stronger? How do I look more jacked? How do you make like the ATG program attractive to people that are in those pursuits?
Great question. That's a great question. We were talking about this earlier. And this is an agree to disagree with someone else on the podcast. But it's not, whatever. The thing is, I remember watching Dmitry Klokov. I did a few seminars with him, one with Charles, one when he was first doing it and his English was terrible. And that is a freak of a human being, an absolute monster who's genetically gifted and other things, and also has trained in weightlifting since an early age. And Ben had seen him too, which is interesting. And he's, there's videos of him front squatting 250 kilos with the paws. Woo! Monster of monsters. I saw him snatch 175 kilos with the 5-second pause at the knee. Just freakish things, snatch 200 kilos, clean and jerked a truck. And I saw him do the splits cold. I'm like, yeah, flexibility is inhibiting his strength. I don't think so.
Jacked as fuck.
Jacked as all fuck.
And handsome, I might add.
Yeah, he's a good looking dude.
Extremely.
Yeah, a good looking dude. And he's, and shredded to the, so splits, perfect split squat. He's phenomenal. Like he's absolutely strong as all hell. And I was asking Mark, I'm like, do you think he could
just a casual 661 deadlift?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, this is, do you think he can, there we
Come
go.
on,
Perfection.
serious? What?
Yeah.
No. That's
unbelievable.
That wasn't real.
Yeah.
Fake plates.
And he's,
I gotta make
you know what?
something.
He's also a great coach. He's a great coach. Very hands-on, very friendly, really wants you to learn.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to see him lift, and it was just disgusting. It was like him and his buddy going back and forth. And one of my friends who's really into Olympic lifting, he's like, that's the most weight that's been cleaned. That's the most weight that's been snatched. And that's the biggest total that has been done in the United States in probably the last 30 or 40 years.
And
he's like, and he just did it because
it.
he's about to talk about cleans and snatches. And
Yeah.
it's like the beginning of a seminar. I was like,
unbelievable.
He did it in the course of maybe 15 minutes or something. I mean, it was just, I don't know, it was just gross. I was like, this
he's
guy
a
is a
monster.
machine.
So I remember watching him and be like, he did a pancake and he did the splits and he's super mobile. And I'm like, interesting.
Action figure.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It takes a ton of work. So it takes a ton of work. So the other one, which I thought is that stretching, quote unquote, call it open up the fascia so you can actually, quote unquote, put more muscle in the areas that have been opened up. So one could say for bodybuilders, okay, hypertrophy. You can get hypertrophy by becoming more bendy and giving more room for, like he did that cold and he's just playing. He's just like extremely flexible.
Keep in mind when people are seeing, Dmitry Klokov do things, these are things he's been doing since he was a young kid.
Yeah, he's trained since he's a
and
kid.
I had an opportunity to interview him for Power Magazine years ago. And he would say, like, he would go in the gym, he would work out. His coach, which I think was his dad, would be like, nope, that's not good. He'd get worked on. He would stretch. He would re-warm up. His dad would be like, nope. He would leave, and he'd come back later on that night. And if it just wasn't good, then that was it. That was it for the day.
I think his dad was also an Olympic champion too.
Yeah, and eventually,
I think he was actually better than him. Apparently.
Right. And then they kept working on stuff. But the point is, like, most people don't have access to have that much time. To do some of these things, so you're not going to most likely move the way this guy is moving. But you can always move better than what you can currently do.
The other thing that I think ATG is phenomenal. Ben Patrick and Keegan, and like they're really big fans of being able to stretching. They stretch. It's honestly
Ben doesn't like just stretch, right? Like
loaded stretching. Yeah,
loaded stretching.
Okay. I mean, Ido Portal does it. Like I learned it first from Ido Portal. That was my. I did a lot of stuff with Ido. I think Ido's brilliant. I call him a friend and a mentor. I think he's a genius.
Can you talk more about loaded stretching? Like, what is that? I think in your mind, what does it look like? Like, what are we talking about here?
So, a seated good morning is a loaded stretch. A split squat's a loaded stretch.
But in the case of like a seated good morning, let's say that you're trying to really stretch. Let's say you guys are working with me and you're like, Mark, are you trying to cue me to like flex my hip flexors and flex the opposite muscles? Or am I literally just doing a seated good morning and that's my stretch?
I don't love cueing people with various anatomy. That's I've experienced that. I like cueing movements. Like, so I care more about look this way, chest up, shoulders back, as opposed to squeeze or feel the, like sometimes I'll say squeeze, but rarely. I want the movement to just look better. So if I can cue you to make the movement look better, that's sort of where I would say. And if your seated good morning gets better, you're going to feel this, like some people really feel their muscles in the places that they're meant to or not meant to. And some people are terrible at understanding their own bodies. And they're like, I don't feel it in this. I don't care.
I feel it in my tricep.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
care.
I do.
Yeah, I don't care. Like if the movement's better, like people are like, I don't feel my biceps when I bend my elbow. I'm like, I don't care if you do, but guess what? That bicep's working. So I think
over time they will feel it more.
Yeah, impossible. And some people just don't. Like some people are like, I feel my low back when I do bicep curls. I'm like, okay, like it is what it is. Like cool, I don't care, but your bicep's working because you're bending the elbow with the load. Like it is what it is. So a lot of people. So I think feel like some people are like, I feel this. I feel great. If the movement gets better, then guess what? You are stretching that, or you are lifting that, loading that, whatever. That's what I would say. And so I would say the stretching part is that, like, I think there's a lot to be gained from stretching and loaded stretching. it depends, it could be the weight of your leg is loaded, but it depends on the person. Like, so, I think the couch stretch is phenomenal. I think that's a phenomenal stretch. I think the pigeon variation that Ben does on a bench is brilliant. I think it's very smart. I love, you did this. I think it's absolutely brilliant. The low pulley seated good morning. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant stretch, but it's also good morning. It's a strengthen. So I think that blend of what is stretching, what is strengthening, I think that's very smart. That's something that I really, really like.
Yeah, like when Ben was here, I was doing my groundwork from Goda, and I was working on my toes, and he looks at it and he's just like, dude, that's great. He's like, that's actually phenomenal. He's like, but that's why I like pushing on the sled, because you put yourself in the same position. He's like, but you're also like, doing something other than just like, I guess, the static stretch of it all.
Exactly.
But like, I don't know. I guess there's no right answer, right?
No,
like
it's
you
not.
can use whichever approach.
I think the other thing, like Mark, we were talking earlier, when someone's like, what would you do with me? Graham was asking. And I said, well, how much time do I have and what are your goals? Right. So like, how much time do you have and what are your goals?
Right.
So that would always be, how much time do you have? Like, are you going to spend 5 minutes stretching, 20 minutes, an hour? Like Dimitrikov was spending an hour to 2 hours stretching a day. And he's also lifting for 2 to 5 hours of, like his workouts, but then he's getting massages and he's having sauna and his, like, when you're an Olympic weightlifter and you have a team, you're on the national team, you don't got anything else to do. I mean, it depends on the funding in the United States and in Canada, the funding isn't so great. So they have to work and do other things. But if you're, the Russian, you're on the national team. So how much time do you have exactly? Like, so that's what I would say. I mean, what are we at? We're number 6. Have they hit the chin-up standard? Like 12 chin-ups. You can do 12 chin-ups, 12 perfect chin-ups. I think it's a good thing for humans to be able to do. Men and women. I think it's great. Now, can you do it right now? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I think it's a good thing to be able to do. Move your body. That's, upper body ability. It's performance, but it's also...
Chin-up is palms facing, or you don't care how someone does it?
Don't care.
Okay.
Like for the test, it's a basic test. It's not the most performance-y thing on the planet. Like we when there's performance, we start talking about how much body weight, 50% of body weight for 3 reps. And there's what's the next level? It's not, oh, great, ATG, good, I've got 12, I'm done. It's a beginning, I'd say. A lot of the things that we talk about, these principles, is that they're beginnings. And then the freak list is something that's going to come out and that kind of stuff. That's something I'm working on with Ben. And there's,
That sounds fun.
Yeah, but the cool thing is it's sort of a continuation of Charles's structural balance thing. You're never, there's no there. But it's cool to have goals where you can be like, oh, this is a weak link. Cool, now I'm going to address the weak link.
I think there should be something on that list, like you got to be able to eat 10% of your body weight in one sitting. You know what I mean?
That's
something
easy,
like that.
though. That's easy.
We got to put something like that on there.
That's easy. I love that. That's easy. In ribeye only.
Yeah, something like that.
In ribeye
You got to put some sort of weird, funny thing in there.
with grass-fed butter. Number 7 was kind of answering Andrew, is like, is their mobility improving? So we like that. Like, is their mobility improving? We think
Mobility
that's important.
has to be improving with improving those movements.
Exactly.
Baseline, yeah.
Exactly. But some people need, like, I need more stretching. Ben needs less stretching, but he's done so much of it that he can kind of just sort of, oh, can I do the split after I dunk? Sure. Yep, it's there. Whereas for me, I'm like working on it.
Gotcha.
And number 8, this is the back to the adaptability of the human, which is, are you addressing the individual needs of the person or the athlete? So this can, progress. Is it grandma who just sprained her ankle? Well, guess what? More tib work, more ankle work, more calf work. Is it a football player, an NFLer that needs more hypertrophy and more pressing? Notice there wasn't too much pressing on it, but that's where 8 comes in. Okay, guess what? Is it do they need, is it a jiu-jitsu athlete, which needs way more grip work and tons of neck work? Absolutely. That's there. And we have numbers and markers for all those things. But the point is, a basketball player, I made all of most of Ben's guys are basketball players, and they're all 6'4", 6'5", and their necks are like this. So it's not that, because they're like, yes, coach, or looking down to people. So the point is actually they need
Trying
neck
not
work.
to hit their head.
Yeah, they need neck work, not because someone's trying to crack their skull, or neck work is phenomenally important because of it reduces concussion chances. So, and forward head lean actually raises your chances of concussions. So, we do a lot of extension with people. That doesn't mean you don't need to do flexion and side to side and all this kind of other stuff. But fundamentally, most people need extension. Also, modernity, we're all staring at our phones and like at desks. So most people need some form of extension. But again, if you're a jiu-jitsu athlete or an NFLer or an NHLer and you're a fighter of any form, guess what? More neck work, because concussions is a real thing. And so you need to add more of that. So whereas some people, it's like a little bit of neck work for like 2 minutes, once a week, great. But for all my jujitsu athletes, they do a ton of neck work, tons of it.
You guys mess with the iron neck at all?
Yeah, I've had that. Ben, it's funny. Like I like bands. I like the Sputnik one, which I attach to a brace. But I think it's great. I think any neck training is great. But again, the way I structure it is we structure it as first we do extension, and again, very regressed against a wall for some people, and then you work towards a bench with pauses, and then you can do it with loaded in your hands, and then you can do different ways of doing it, and then you can do flexion, and then you can do side to side, and then you can do it with speed. Because at the end of the day, if you're a fighter, if you're a hockey player, if you're a football player, you can, you have to move your neck under resistance with speed. So yeah, I think that's the 8, I would say. But then the point is that you can advance them and you can progress them, and you can progress with both load and with perfecting the technique. So that's the ATG 8.
I know, like with Ben, he tries to simplify stuff. He doesn't like for people to have a lot of tools. But some of the stuff that Ben has preached a lot less of, I actually like to hear more of from him. He talks about like the prowler that he has costs like $750, and he's like, he kind of almost, in different words than this because he's kinder, basically says tough shit, like suck it up and go figure out a way to get one. I like that mentality a lot, and I think that people should work towards finding these pieces, like some of these pieces of equipment that can maybe help with some of these things. If your gym doesn't currently have it, look around. There's other facilities in your area that you will start to stumble upon some of these things. And if the current gym that you're at, there's not coaches there, there's not other athletes there that seem to be vibing and they're into what you're doing, or they don't have bands and you got to carry them around, like just figure out a way to make some of this easier for yourself. If you have to, and I understand like a 45-minute drive might be making it harder on yourself, but if you have to make a 45-minute drive to somewhere, I mean, I've done a lot of that. I think we've all in this room have done things like that, where you go to another destination a little bit further away that has a better facility. It's encouraging. It gets you fired up. And what I would love to see more people do is turn some of these things that are, they're kind of viewing their body as the enemy, which is a horrible place to be. But imagine if you could turn that completely on itself, flip it on itself, and to turn some of this exercise stuff into a hobby. It begins as something that you hate. I hate doing this. I hate that I'm in this position. I hate myself for this. I hate that I'm too fat. I hate that I'm too slow. I hate that I'm not conditioned. This really sucks. But you start to find things that lend themselves to you being able to do them kind of freely. They hurt a little less over time. You see improvement. Somebody says, hey, have you dropped some weight? You get some momentum going. You're pulling the sled. You're noticing some muscles in your legs. Maybe a vein starts to pop out in your forearm or something. And now you're on cloud 9 and you can turn these things. It is really incredible what can happen over a period of time. I'm sure you've seen it in your own facility with some coaches that you worked with. They start to turn it into their own hobby. But I think, trying to have a block and say, man, I can't do that neck exercise because I don't have the iron neck. I'm not saying like you should always figure out a way to buy an iron neck.
Right.
But you should always figure out a way to buy an iron neck. That should be in kind of the back of your head. I want to be able to buy a piece of equipment that's like that, or I want to get around somebody that has a piece of equipment that's like that, because somebody's not just going to have that piece of equipment. They're going to have a bunch of other pieces of equipment. And I think this is the kind of stuff that I think you can progress a lot faster when you start getting into gyms that have like-minded people that want to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. Like, amen. Like that's, yeah. I mean, and part of it is like what we want to do with, Ben's reach and, and my desire together for us to educate more coaches to help with this recipe that we think is fantastic, is there will be more gyms that do this and they'll be able to help more people. I mean, and that's what we believe. We believe the recipe is great. So I think that's the cool thing. And I think Ben has a team that's working on all kinds of inventions to make it more affordable, or a better way, a better sled, and a better, better Nordic bench, or, a better, the ATG buddies that you can take, and all these kind of things that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of and I think it's kind of an interesting thing to sort of give some context. The genius of Ben was the zero program. The zero program was body weight. But a significant part of that was contextual. It was during the pandemic, where a lot of people didn't have a gym and they didn't have all the tools. So it was like, how do you, and people were depressed and upset and they were watching Netflix and just ordering craft beers and whatever your, your COVID, and ordering pizza. I think
Your eyes went up when you said craft beers. Is that
that
you?
was my beginning. The beginning, I was like, well, I'm going to support
craft
I'm going to
beers.
support local and I'm going to get into it. But then it was like, okay. And then it was cocktails and it's like, okay, calm down. Like you don't have to be like, and then it was like, okay, let's scale back on the nutrition and actually be better and all that kind of stuff. So, and the cocktails was funny because, I was like, well, I probably shouldn't drink a whole bottle of wine to myself. My wife was pregnant, with our, I should probably not do that because she's not going to drink. So I was like, oh, how about a cocktail?
You
It's
were
just one.
fluffier last time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Was he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Coming out of the COVID, the whole of the, like hibernation. I'm like, oh, we're people, talking. I was like, oh, I get words coming together. Yeah. So yeah, but I think that's the thing is we want to educate coaches, and there will be places that have more tools and better equipment. Means people get have pride in their gym and have pride in their results, and like, wow, these dumbbells are amazing. This barbell's awesome. These plates are great. This Nordic band, I like this one. These and that's the thing. I think absolutely holding your gyms to a higher standard, saying, hey, can you get this piece of equipment, or I'll buy it, or whatever. Can I store here? Yeah, I think a ton of people are doing that. Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. Instead of it being, well, this is something I have to do because my doctor said I should exercise. It's to being, no, I take pride. It's actually a great part of my day where I get to go. I get to, like, it's gratefulness. I mean, I always like that. It's like, I'm grateful that I get to go because there's some people that can't. So I always like that. And it's like, I get to go to this awesome place that has these awesome toys that get to make me better and challenge me and make me, I think, absolutely. And instead of it being this chore that it's like, I have to brush my teeth, it's like, no, awesome. What a cool toothbrush or whatever it is. It's like this habit that fundamentally leads towards virtuous excellence and a better life and a happier life. We'll take pride in it and maybe be at a gym that you take pride in. I mean, you've built that. I mean, I've built that and I'm building that. And I think it's awesome. I think that's phenomenal to have it be something that you devote your life to, or at least a chunk of your week to, because it's good for you. But instead of it being a chore, then absolutely. And I think the tools matter. We can say, well, it's just a tool, but also the tools matter. I mean, the tools do matter. Like, better tools are better. So how to use them, we can debate and discuss and whatever. But I think better tools are better.
Can we get a sneak preview of that freak list? I'm very curious.
Yes. I can start discussing some of the things.
I think what you're talking about, relates a little bit to, I've heard Paul Chek talk about this before, where you're working in, people just kind of think I'm going and I'm working out, but you're working on yourself, so people that still maybe hate the movement, they hate the fitness stuff, it is really a really awesome opportunity for you to be like kind of one-on-one with yourself. I know there's other people around, but you're one-on-one with yourself, and it's literal just self-improvement.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I always say, like, if you're alive, you can improve. Like, if you're alive, you can spend today doing a little bit better. And that's the thing. And you get to then do it the next day and be a little bit better. And you can do that on your nutrition. You can't fix the past, but today and tomorrow you can be a little bit better. And I think that's the magic. Like, I don't know. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think for me, one of the things that I value so much, I think it's so important, is personal responsibility. Again, I'm far from perfect. We're all far from perfect. We're all flawed. But if you think to yourself, maybe today I can do a little bit better, like a little bit better. I mean, that's taking responsibility for your fate. Again, there's luck, there's ups, there's downs. You can't predict everything, but if you can try, if you're still alive, you can try to do something to be a little bit better. Yeah. Freak checklist. I'll give you a few of the numbers.
Okay.
So ATG split squat, 75% times 5. Abs to bench seated good morning, 75% times 10.
Ooh.
With a 3-second lower and a 1-second pause.
Okay.
This is one that we were playing with. ATG back squat, so heels elevated, 150% of body weight times 2, with the 4-second lower, 1-second pause. So really owning the bottom. You're not bouncing. It's not trying to. You're in the bottom. Your ass is touching the floor, and you come up. ATG front squat, 127.5% for 2, with a 3-second lower and a 3-second pause.
Okay.
So really owning that bottom. Tib bar, 25% times 10. Single leg calf raise was 25 times 10. We're playing with this one because not everyone has access to this, but Atlantis lying leg curl, 75% times 5 at 4-1 exo, so 4 down, 1 pause. But really, it was to try and mimic the Nordic. So 5 perfect Nordics with a 3 lower and a 2 pause. So it's not bouncing in the bottom. It's like you're just, I like this one a lot too. I actually really like this. We were playing with this. Barbell on back, 45-degree back extension, 50% times 10. It's harder than it looks. Julian was doing some. Julian Baldi was doing stuff like that, and that's sort of in an ode to that stuff. Press behind neck, 63.75% of body weight times 6. 3 second lower, 2 second pause.
Like a barbell behind the
barbell
neck press?
behind the next press. Yeah.
Okay.
And all of this is, our idea of, instead of it being on the marker of the bench press, a lot of athletes don't bench press. So to have that standard, so we're playing with it from a body weight point of view. And is this a be all end all? No, we're going to play with the numbers, but I think it's the idea of the expanding balloon of abilities. You expand a little bit, and then you have to work on the other thing to expand a little bit, but it's not linear. So you work on these weak links, and we think these exercises are such that if you work towards these things, trap 3, 10% times 8. Oh, dumbbell external rotation was 15% times 8. So that's more than the 10%. Most people can't do that. 45-degree incline dumbbell press, 50% times 6, 3 second lower, 2 second pause. Some people can do that easy, like really strong. And and some people are like, interesting. I'm weak on this.
Yeah.
We also added 30-degree incline dumbbell hammer curl, quote unquote long range, 25% times 6 each hand. Dip and chin, 50% of body weight times 3 second lower, 1 second pause.
Can you, and by the way, we haven't even spoke about this, but the benefits of long range and short range exercises, because we were talking the other day about when you see bodybuilders move, right? You see like a lot of bodybuilders who do a lot of bicep curls, they're stuck like this perpetually. They're not here. But if they literally just added in some long range curls into what they do, they would probably be able to have access to that range of motion without sacrificing any muscle.
Absolutely.
So they'd look better and they move better. So what would be the benefits of doing long range movements with all of these different muscle groups?
So long range, I love it for the biceps to explain this. So what's cool is elbow in front of the body hits more of the short head of the biceps. Elbow behind, and it's totally fine, but most people are stronger there, so they do that. Elbow behind body hits more of the long. So again, if you bend your elbow, you're hitting both. It's not like one is one and one is the other. Back to the, we were talking about a chin up does not hit the biceps only. No, like if you bend, you're hitting the lat. A pull up does not just hit the lat. If you bend, you're hitting the bicep, but you feel it more and that's fine. Same thing. You're hitting both heads of the biceps, but if your elbow's behind, it hits more of the long head, and the long head is attached to the shoulder. So it's actually really important for shoulder health too, and it opens up the pec in that stretched position. So there's really great things that happen also with the elbow and at the wrist. So there's great things that happen on the tendon, the joint, the ligament, all that kind of stuff. That's brilliant. Now, a lot of people are so tight that going straight into it is a tough thing. So what you do is you start with shorter range stuff, which gets the blood flow pumping and really bathes the joints in that blood so that you can then get into the more longer range things. So for example, you can do step ups or sled before you get into a split squat. So the genius is you're warming up the joint. You're not going straight into that really gross stretch of a split squat that when I do my first reps and first sets, I feel like I'm not 41. I feel like I'm 81.
It's gnarly.
And then you do a few sets and, after you've warmed up, you're like, you can get into it a little bit better. Not everyone is like Ben who gets into it cold splits, but he's done phenomenal work getting there. So this is Keegan. Keegan's brilliance is this articulation of long head, short head. It's brilliant ATG, one of the principles. And I got to say, that guy's really smart. I love how he explains things. And we speak the same language. He's so philosophic and open-minded, and he likes playing with movement, and he's inspiring in that way. And he's just a great guy. And I look forward to the day when he can travel more and all that kind of fun stuff and just hang out.
He did a horrible job on our podcast, though.
Unbelievable.
You're continually roasting Keegan.
He's a coach. I got to give it to him straight.
Absolutely. And you also have to say, listen.
Did a poor job.
Listen, the other thing is that
he's off the team.
He gets by.
We love you, brother.
He gets by so well on those good looks. Like he just looks there, and he has the accent and the blue eyes.
He's
just
dashing.
We'll have
he
him
is
here in
dashing.
person. It'll be a different story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because Keegan made a video once, and Mark said that video sucks. You're off the team. So it's just continuous roasting.
Keegan will like that. He was texting me.
He whooped my ass.
Yeah, I know he is. Yeah. Yeah, he looks great. He's like, I'm just like, man, you look great, dude. Anyway, so he's very smart. And so the long head short, I think that's the thing, is the understanding is, the other thing is, I think the thing for a lot of people is it's like jumping into a cold shower real fast. And it's hard. I mean, it takes courage to do that. I mean, together is always, I mean, as long as I'm big spoon, I'm fine. But, you know, the thing is to be in the position where exercise, I think the genius of the sled, the genius of when Ben was doing more calf tip stuff first, you know, the genius of doing bicep, you know, elbows in front, bicep curls, spider curls, this kind of stuff, or like a side lateral raise first before you get into a deep press behind neck. The idea is that it's blood flow, bathing, warm up. And I think the longer you train, the more you realize any way that I can trick my body to warm up, the workouts feel better and I get better results.
Imagine doing that right when you get up in the morning, just doing some calves and some shins. Like people that wake up with this really stiff back, stiff body. It's like, well,
it's brilliant.
You have to like walk people backwards a little bit. Like your whole body's not stiff. You can move your hands around. You can move your neck around probably. It might be your lower back that might be stiff. Legs might be a little tight, but you can probably, you know, move your calves around, move your shins around.
And that's the thing. It's the entry point. I think the cool thing is a very easy entry point into movement. And it's not this straight into a cold shower. Again, obviously there's great in the cold shower, but it's shocking. And I think for a lot of people, that shocking makes them not do it. So if you can do it, so that's part of the brilliance of short range, long range. Short range is blood flow, and then you can get into that deeper stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a very, very smart way of making sure that you're warmed up. And I think for veterans of the wars, the longer you do it, the more you can, you know, that's why I think sled before every workout is so smart.
Absolutely.
You're just like, yeah, I could do that. You're like, if you're in the mood, great. You go and hit the squat rack and first rep barbell, you know, blah, 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 let's go. But to me, it's rare. Like I generally don't just walk in being like, let's go from a, full squat perfectly. It takes me a little bit of a warm up. And, you know, like, especially if you rolled some jujitsu, you get up like you're an old man. Like, at least I do. Like, man, I just fought wars with people. And it's like, it's that takes a toll. So it's like, oh man, there's no way I can work out today. And then you do, sled. Okay. Some calves, like, okay. Yeah. Or like some, you know, short range bicep or whatever, or some like, you know, pulses of stuff like hangs and like some scap retraction type stuff. I think it's brilliant.
Fastest way to get your heart rate up is through your arms. So if you did like arm circles or lateral raises, or like today I did some rows. So the sled's great, but if your lower body's tight and you are even kind of whiny and pissy about that, the fastest way to get your heart rate up is through the upper body. You can even get on like a what are those bikes? Assault bike, and put your feet up on the pegs and just use your arms. You're going to be warm really fast.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do we find ways to enter into the hard work easier? I think that's the brilliance of short range, long range. You know, along with the joint, tendon, muscle, like magical stuff. I think a lot of great things come with the tendon stuff, so the long range stuff, but also like short range stuff. There's just all that blood flow to the joints and the muscles. It's just great.
Have you hurt yourself doing some of this stuff?
Yeah, I've tweaked stuff. I pushed the reverse squat like pretty intensely, and I tweaked I was like, let me see how much I can do. And I was like, I was fatigued. Actually, it was like the 6th workout of 3 a days. And it's like, okay. Like, and it was like, oh, I felt that a little bit much.
What'd you tweak?
Hip flexor.
Hip flexor?
Yeah. And, like that was the one where I was like, interesting. You got to come in. But I think it's one of those things, I think we were talking with Chris, your brother, like, you know, the realization that like, you got to focus on every rep. Like you have to have intent and not just be like, especially if it's something you're like, this is a challenge. If it's like the first set of split squats, fine, chill out. Like your body weights, but whatever. First couple step ups, it's like, it's fine. But the second there's load, you have to focus. And it's one of those things that we all find a position where it's unfatigued, sleep, electrolyte balance is low, all this kind of stuff. It's like, you gotta pay attention. So yeah, I mean, I'm much smarter about how I used to lift. I used to be like, if it's not max, like this isn't a workout. Like that was my dopamine, you know, like love that feeling of like your eyes are going to pop out. Like if it's not 1 rep, you know, like train like a powerlifter, even though I have never done any meets or anything like that. Loved it. But yeah, I think the more time goes by, the more wise you get. And I think the other thing, there's another cool thing that Keegan said, it's on us to push the limits. So that might mean that we tweak some stuff because we're the coaches. We're the ones that are trying to experiment a little bit and be like, yeah, that was too much. So like, oh, I pushed too much on the Jefferson curl, or I pushed too much on the hip flexor or whatever. Like it was coming for your numbers. I put 150 on, which is pretty cool. Like, I was like, that's pretty good. Yeah. Like, and it was like, I felt it. Like I got 15 in, and I was like, the last one was like, like I should have. And I was just holding, and I was like talking to. It's like, don't talk to someone. Just make sure you're doing. You know, it's the ability to focus. So I think that's the thing. It's like realizing that, and you live and you learn, and then you do them. What is it like? I think Kelly Starrett said this. I like this. You do the cousin of the movement that hurt you, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool way of thinking about it. And then it's not ignore it, don't do it. It's move and go around it. And we're in the trenches, or you're doing jujitsu or you're lifting. It's like you're going to feel stuff, you're going to tweak stuff. So it's like the magic is knowing that you have something, you have the recipe to make it feel better. I feel much more confident with jujitsu, and so do all my jujitsu athletes that I train, which is, if I tweak something, we're going to come and we have the ability to fix it. We have the ability to work on it so it feels better. I think that's such a cool thing to have. Like that's such a wonderful thing to know that you have the recipe, unless you die, to be able to improve yourself and other people.
You said when you were younger, you blew your knee out. I'm curious what happened with that and how that's actually feeling these days.
It feels great. I don't feel, I planted, it's the whole thing. I jumped out of bounds and I was trying to save a ball in basketball. I planted and twisted and I heard a pop. Okay. And that was great. And
Do you
I
know
couldn't,
what it was?
Yeah, it was a bucket handle tear. So I had,
same thing.
Yeah. So
Right
75% meniscus gone in my right knee. So I had surgery, and the doctor, it's cool. Like the doctor actually put me on, Stu McGill has a great book, The Gift of Injury. Yeah. So it's phenomenal. And the techniques, Stu's great. He's brilliant and all this kind of stuff. And I think there's something, I would not have this career. I would probably be a PhD in philosophy, and that would have been a great career too. Cause I think fundamentally I love teaching, and I think coaching is teaching. Yeah. So I have a very good friend who's a prof, and he said, well, you kind of are a prof. Like you do your research, you go to conferences, like you meet people and you have, whatever, and you teach people. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. That's a good way of putting it. Like, but so I think that's what a coach is, a teacher. So I think that's the thing. So when I popped my knee, the doctor said I couldn't bend my knee and I couldn't fully flex it. Like I couldn't fully straighten it. And so again, surgery, and the doctor said, don't get fat. I was like, okay, that sucks. I kind of want to, but whatever. And he says, don't run long distance, the wear and tear on your thing, the chances of arthritis or whatever. But again, and get as strong as you can around that knee. And I was like, interesting. Okay. So, and then a career path change, which was do the research. So I think the thing is again, vast generalization, men, when they get hurt, like women often, this is my experience, this is anecdotal, obviously, but often I'm in the position where women are smarter than men, where they say, well, I don't know the thing, I'm going to research the thing so I can do it within an intelligent way. Whereas men are like, it's physical, I know how to move the body. And it's like, well, not like, So men often come for help, and this is in my coaching experience. Women come because like, I don't have the recipe, can you show me a proper plan and give me a good rationale? Okay, here's the plan. They're like, oh, that sounds fair. Okay, let's go. Whereas men are like, so I did this thing to myself and I suck. And I did this other thing to myself and I suck. But really stupid men just feel like they're a done deal. Oh, well, I hurt my knee and I'm like, I'm done now. But if you're just slightly above stupid, which I consider myself, is, I hurt my knee. Okay, now I have to do research to figure out how to fix the thing. Yeah. So then you start going off. And again, for me, the path led to Charles Poliquin, and amongst other things. Here's the recipe. Oh my God, my knee feels great. And the rest is history. And I'm going to change career. Instead of doing the PhD route, I'm going to, I got my master's, but I'm going to research and help people in this way. So for me, that was my injury. And then my left knee, same thing. I played basketball and I tore it. So I had an MRI on that one, and I have a tear in my left knee. But I do not feel it. Like I squat all the way down. I can split squat. Again, I'm not the most flexible, but like I can do a lot of things in jujitsu and all this kind of stuff. I don't feel them, which is pretty awesome, because the realization that you have the recipe, it's kind of awesome. Like that's why I say training is so magical. I've had back stuff. I've had shoulder stuff. I had elbow surgery. Actually, I rolled with you. It was October? No. I had it. It was like July was elbow surgery. No, like that July. Okay. I had elbow surgery because it was an arm bar. And so it was like
not from me, right?
No, not from you. No.
Okay, yeah.
No, it was.
I think Mark's giving me that look. Like, did you do something to somebody else?
No. I was very pleased that when we rolled, it was pretty much like I was very. You said you were very relaxed when I was whipping your ass. I'm like, yeah, I'm not bad. At
I
that.
didn't say that specifically.
No, but I'm reputation. But I had an arm bar and I tapped too late and whatever, and it was like it popped and it was like, oh shit. And I did everything to do the whatever, but a bone chip was in there and it just had to come out. So
I'm hearing rumors that when Nsima shows up to jiu-jitsu, it's like Wyatt Earp showing up at a saloon.
Well, is it?
Tumbleweed goes by, but there's no opponent on the other side.
Yeah.
Like everyone just kind of shuffles along and leaves.
He's like, it's fine. I'll only use my left hand. Yeah. But it's like, man, it's like this. Like his jiu-jitsu is like,
wow, I got a dentist appointment. You're like, it's 8:00 at night. Yeah, like, there's no dentist working at this time. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, no, so that was my knee, and and the other knee. But the other knee I didn't have surgery on, and the right knee I did. So, and, the rest is history. Felt pretty good.
PowerProject family, how's it going? Now, I want to talk to you guys about Within You supplements. This is Mark's supplement line. And the amazing thing is Mark used to be 330 pounds. He was a fat guy. So obviously this stuff tastes really damn good. But another cool thing about Within You supplements is that none of these products are white labeled. Now, what a lot of people do when they come out with their own supplement lines is they do something called white labeling. And white labeling, all that means is there's a supplement that's already out there. They take off the tag of that supplement, they put their name on it, and now it's their supplement line. Quite literally, there's nothing else like Within You supplements out there because Mark formulated these supplements with other individuals that he knows within the industry, like Joel Green, who we've had on this podcast. So you guys should check out Within You. We have amazing whey protein, electrolyte supplements, we have fasting gum, and many other things on the website. Andrew, how can they check it out?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Yeah.
No, I asked you that because I think it's really good for a lot of people. Like I had a same thing, buck and handle tear in my right knee. And I mean, I still feel certain things there, but because of all the things, before I knew Ben and he came on the podcast, I did some ATG work and my knee started to really improve. Like I stayed away from a lot of stuff with knee work because of the pain there. And me having had surgery, it's like, I can't even really tell that I had surgery. So it just, I hope a lot of people can gain some confidence there, whether you've had surgery in a specific area or it hurts or whatever. You do a lot of this stuff and you work with the regressions because there are really intelligent regressions that are done through that program. You can make some progress, but you need to give yourself time. Like whenever I hear criticisms of it, like criticism is good, but one of the criticisms I've seen of like what Ben does is like, oh yeah, people are going to get hurt doing that. It's like, no, you don't realize that if somebody looks at the programming is set up in a way that there is a regression for you if you can't do a split squat with weight. There is a regression for you. Now, if the person doesn't pay attention to do the regression, that's on them.
Correct.
But the regression is put in front of you. Now, that athletes need to take accountability there because everyone wants to blame, oh yeah, this causes, no. You injured yourself because you didn't do the regression and you rushed yourself. That's the problem.
Well, everyone thinks they're special. It's like, you're not that special. Like there's a few people that are special. I've seen some special, like some freaks that it's like, wow, one workout they've adapted, next moving on. The ballet dancer I was telling you about. She's unbelievable. You know, and some of my NFL guys, it's like, man, I don't need that much stimulus 1-2 times, and they've figured it out and they've moved on and they get it. Like it's amazing. Like world-class lifters, movers, like phenomenal. Some of the jiu-jitsu people are like that. Like it's just phenomenal. But most people, it's like you need the time for the tendons and the ligaments and the muscles and the joints and everything to open up, and you need the time. And you need the time slowly with load progressing slowly, and you're not trying to get a world record in 2 weeks. Let your body adapt. It's stimulus plus intent and then recovery so that you can adapt. Like that's the thing. You need the appropriate stimulus. I think that's the thing.
We talk a lot about mindset on this show, and obviously philosophy can assist a lot with how you perceive the world, how you look at things, how you interpret stuff. How did this knowledge of philosophy help assist or maybe even make worse of a bad situation of something like the pandemic?
I think there's so much that we can go into with the political thing with pandemic. And I think in some ways it allowed me to, Stoic philosophy was really useful for that one. But also thinking about, I really thought about regimes in the sense of like democracy, tyranny, oligarchy, all this kind of stuff from Aristotle and Plato, and trying to think about like, okay, someone's saying that I can or can't leave my house. Someone is saying that I can or can't, but they sure as hell can't tell me what I feel in my heart of hearts. And I'm lucky I have my family, I have my kids, I have people that love me, I'm not going to starve. There are people that have better situations, there are people that have worse situations. That doesn't mean, and part of the trip that when I came here in October with you guys and Ben was really helpful for me to think about, okay, how do I change it? And instead of being angry, because there was moments where I was angry and upset, but working it through on a global level from a point of view of, okay, well, what's worse? Am I okay if I lose my whole gym? And there was times like we lost a significant quantity of money and revenue and significant quantity of our clients. And, I'm not blaming anyone. It's it was the nature of the beast, and we're rebuilding,
Something you worked on, put a lot of time into.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
like there was nights
having
where
clients and retention of clients is like a really not an easy thing to get.
I mean, I think we dropped to probably under 30% of what we had, and and it's pretty significant. And thinking to myself like, well, what do I do? Am I going to sell my house? Do I have to all these things? Very stressful. And but like those gratefulness things, and sort of thinking more on a longer term schedule to say, okay, I still have food, still feed my kids. Like it's if we have to sell the house, we have to sell the house, and that's okay. And this sort of idea of these are possessions, and how do I be in a position where I can do the things that are necessity, and having that view where it's not, well, I want this pair of shoes or this car or whatever it might be. And it really allowed me to have that view where what are the essentials, what are necessary, who can control my thoughts. And I think that some of the Stoic philosophy stuff, which is the obstacle is the way, being in a position where, okay, how do I figure out, what do I do? Do I give up? No, when it opens up, I'm going to help people. And I had clients that during the pandemic, they said, listen, if you don't train me, there's a chance that I'll off myself. And so, I feel very grateful in some ways that I had the ability to help train them. And that, again, I do think what we do is God's work, but, I'm not trying to self-aggrandize. I think helping people with their bodies helps people with their souls. It's the vessel that holds people's souls and their beings. And I think it's an amazing thing you were talking about, from outside in. And I think it's a lot like that, and some people it's just biceps, triceps, that's okay too. But I think for a lot of people, their bodies are so intimately connected with who they are and who their being is, that I think the privilege that we have, that I feel like I have, which is to train people and help people with that, I feel very grateful. So I think that idea that, okay, what am I going to do? Quit? No, this is what feeds my family. And I feel, it's funny. It's like, I feel like I have a purpose. I love being a coach. I love helping people move better. And I fundamentally think that at the end of the day, the reason that I wanted to study philosophy was I'm fascinated by human happiness. And I feel like if I can do some things that can help people work towards being better on that range of things, that they're like, my body's not my enemy. I can start to think about greater and higher things. I can start thinking about what's good. I can start thinking about leading a good life. And again, I'm far from perfect. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but if I can help a little bit with that, I feel grateful. So for us, it was not giving up, not quitting, not closing down my place and telling all my coaches, yeah, we're done. But being in the position where I can say, you know what, I'm going to continue with this mission that I have, which is to help people. And that's kind of awesome. And again, I have to be grateful to you guys, like putting together the event with Ben and seeing such a wonderful energy of people. I think that really lit a fire under a little fire under me again to say like, no, I still love this. I still want to do this. I still want to, continue to do this. And I think that kind of idea of like, what's human happiness to me is a connection and a conversation with people. We were talking about this earlier, there's no, humans aren't boring. Like, there's no one that's boring. If you pay attention enough, people are interesting. So for me, I think what's really cool is I have the privilege of hanging out with people multiple times a week, where we can week through their weaknesses physically and have a conversation about all kinds of different things, and I like to figure out their family and their brothers and their sisters and their wives and husbands and kids and parents and all this kind of stuff, and get to know them and get to have relationships with them. And I think that's the cool thing I think the fundamental human thing is friendship. And that doesn't mean you can be friends with all the world, but I think these kind of conversations, I feel privileged to build a friendship with you guys. And I get to do that with my athletes and my clients. And it's not just like, okay, in, out, biceps, triceps, see you later. Here's your protein shake. It's kind of seeing their successes and their things that, seeing someone who's injured and they forget their injury because we've done work, we've done the magic of training to make them feel better. So I think that, and again, it can be self-aggrandizing. Oh, I'm helping people with human happiness. It's like, okay, like, are you? Well, in some ways it is just pushing a sled, do some biceps and triceps or whatever. But in some ways it actually is helping with people with human happiness, because the vessel that holds their soul, I get to, the privilege of helping them. So I guess that would be sort of the entry point. Like, and I think the other thing is, reading philosophy and history and literature, Gulliver's Travels is 300 years old. Like Xenophon and Plato and Socrates, that's 2,500 years ago. Like there's something magical about having that worldview. It's almost a privilege that in some ways I don't feel like I'm so special. It's human, humans, so this, in some ways you can sort of say, okay, well, is this a blip in time? well, so what can I do to take care of it? Okay, I'll spend more time with my family, spend more time reading. You know, I thought it was very useful, like Keegan putting together coaches calls where we're talking to people from around the world, even though I don't get to see them. So, you know, these things were a phenomenal help for me. And I'm like, okay, like I'm connected to people. There is a connection. And it's going to open up and people can, you know, travel again and connect to people again and do the things that are wonderful, train together, you know, break bread together, you know, whether you eat bread or not, like, you know, like, but that's the thing. Nobody, yeah, but it's that kind of wonderful thing that I think is what humans need. It's what I need. And I think I feel very grateful that I get to do that with people. So, you know, I think it was hard, but I think having that purpose, which is, I'm a coach. I love coaching people. Like I love coaching coaches. I love coaching athletes. I love coaching like everyone that wants to improve. And, you know, I feel pretty grateful that I get to do that. So that I haven't given up on that. I like, that was the driving thing. So, but that sort of more historical worldview will let me sort of come to that conclusion in a way.
Is what hurt the worst was the disconnect between you and the people that you're helping, that you care so much about?
Yeah. I mean, also like at the end of the day, it's also like, this is what I built, a business that feeds my family, and I might have to sell my house and like give up on something that I built over a decade. So that was sad. But also the fact that, you know, people come, it's like, oh, what advice would you give a young person? Follow their passion. And I'm like, no, actually, find something that pays the bills and then find your passion. But I think too many people are so lost and they're like, well, I'm trying to find my passion. And it's like, you're 32 and you haven't paid any bills. You live in your mom's basement. It's like, no, like be a responsible adult and then find your passion. Like, so it's like, oh, what's your favorite exercise? I don't know. Do all of them until you figure out what you like. Yeah. So, but I know that's hypocritical because I've actually found something that's my passion. I know. Like in some ways it's like BS advice because like I love what I do.
No, it makes sense. Ben Patrick was Ben Patrick before he ever, you know, stepped foot on the internet. And then same with me. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I benched, you know, 600 pounds and squatted 700 pounds and deadlifted like 700 pounds right around the time the internet was coming around and people saw my progression. But I was already bench pressing, you know what I mean? I was already like lifting quite a bit before. I even mentioned to a friend the other day, I was like, at some point I want to retire from like some of the just Instagram, TikTok, who the fuck knows what will be around down the road. But like, I would love to just not be a part of any of that at some point. That would be a beautiful time for me, I think. I don't really know. But they were like, what else would you do? I was like, I would go back to doing what I've always done. Like I did a lot of shit before the internet came around. It's just unencumbered is all it is because, you know, you have X amount of people, you know, that are your followers. You have 10, 15,000 people that are in your back pocket all the time, you know, and we can play philosophy games all day long, but we can't truly disconnect from it. We can't truly give it a poor value assignment because it does mean something in our society. And when you see more people and you see more positive comments, it does feed into you a bit.
No question.
And, you know, I would love to be more disconnected to that in the future. And somebody might say, well, why don't you do it now? Well, I messed around with it before, but like it appears at the moment, at least for me, that it still is substantial and I still need to be connected to it. And I still do like it. I like it enough to not get rid of it. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense to me. I was so against it and I feel it was simply bad, but that now that I see so much good that's come out of it for me, but I think at the same time, it can be a time suck. And I think that it's finding a balance is very difficult. I'm finding it difficult too. I'm not, you know, there's no question. I read a little bit less because I'm like, what's going on? And at the same time, it's a good thing because it's like I'm answering people, but it's not, but I want to, you know, it's like a couple of essays that I want to write that I'm sort of in the middle. I was writing about the Gulliver's Travels one a little bit, you know, and a couple of other ones that I have that I want to put out, but it's like, you know, there's all these things that you feel, I want to get back to some of my language learning stuff. Like there's all these things that you really want to do, but like the time suck of it. But at the same time, there's the connections of it. So it's not all bad that you can just cut it out cold turkey. At least I'm not in the position yet. I think there's more good than bad, but there's a lot of bad, I think. But
sometimes,
you know,
sometimes we ain't got shit to say either because we got to keep learning, you know? So sometimes you're like, I don't have a message at the moment because I want to reload. I want to learn some new stuff. And then at that point, it feels good to disappear for a little bit. Then you can always come back into it if you want to.
Yeah. I have a question for you real quick, Mark. And actually, Ben, I'm curious too. When you say like step away from it at some point, what does that look like for you? And what would be the benefit Because like already you don't really spend much time on it and utilize it. But
Yeah,
what
because
would
I
be
already
the
worked it out. I mean, I've been discussing this with myself for a long time. I wanted to kind of like retire from slingshot stuff at like 45, but then I started a supplement brand, and then so that gives me, it just puts me into another job. And then more recently, I've been like investing in some businesses, and that gives me another job. So I don't mind having jobs. It's actually great, because it can help give you purpose and can help keep you driven, keep you excited about things. I do like to share a lot of messages on social media, but you guys know, like there's so much stuff that I could film in the gym. I could film stuff all day, and we do film stuff all day already. But my workouts, they're pretty private. Like people have seen me like running, but I run every day. I lift every day. You might see a post every day, but the posts are just a small fraction of what I'm actually doing. I like a lot of it to be private because it's like, it's for me. It's like solitude. Like I love it. It feels good. I really enjoy it. It's like therapy for me. And I still feel like I'm a work in progress. I'm always like working on these things. So sometimes I'm like, I'd rather not even share that at the moment. Not because I'm not proficient at it. That stuff I don't care about. I don't care if I go to do something and I look silly and I'm not as mobile as the next person and stuff like that. I don't mind any of that. But I really want to like have a white belt mentality, kind of strip myself down and just say, let me just keep working on this. And when there's a camera on you, it just changes everything. Yeah. It's kind of like when you do something for money. As soon as you do something for money, as much as you didn't want it to change it,
it changes.
It fucking changes it. Like if you get paid for jujitsu, it changes it. Might make you better even, who knows, but it still changes it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think that's profound. I think the other thing that I was talking to Ben about it, but I think it's interesting. Smart people figure out the discussion the same way. He's like, the other interesting thing about it is it's also new. That we're not quite sure what to do with it. And I think in some ways you guys are the guys like you that are trailblazing and are like succeeding at it. And Ben clearly, and the thing is like, to me, what's inspiring about, like you guys and Ben is how positive it is. It's not like, oh, well, this guy's like, they're like, here are my pet peeves and don't do that. It's like none of that. It's more like, here's what I'm doing. This is cool. This is cool too. This is another cool person doing some cool stuff. And this is the stuff I think is cool, whatever. Like here's a product that I like, or here's something that I'm doing. Have at it if you want, not if you don't want, whatever. And I think that's inspiring to me. Be like, this is something that this medium is neutral and it can be bad and it can be good, but okay, cool. I'm paying attention to the people that do good. I'm like, okay, I can share good. My instincts were to say, well, I don't have anything to say. I'm still learning, and I have a continual white belt mentality.
Yeah, you keep referencing other coaches, which you're plenty proficient.
I appreciate
and great at what you do. You don't need to push it off onto anybody else of having a mentor or anything.
I appreciate that. My instincts are to give credit. Like that's sort of who I am. Because in some ways I'm like, I haven't invented anything. But again, it's my interpretation of the things.
Right.
But at the same time, I think of it as like, it doesn't matter. It's like, if I can share these things, cool. But I think that's the thing. Seeing this as a positive thing is how to channel it such that it's positive. And I think we're talking about like the need to feel like you have to feed the beast. And I don't want to ever be in the position where I feel like I have to feed the beast. I'd rather find a way to ride the beast. And I think, and again, Ben and I have had long conversations. Yeah, Ben and I have had conversations about it where content, it's like, oh, this is a cool thing I want to share, as opposed to like, oh man, like I got to post something today, and it's like, oh, the beast needs to be fed. And I think I never want to be in that position. So I think that's very interesting to try and find a way to do it in that way. I mean, it's still a tool. I think it's a phenomenal tool, but it's like playing with fire. I don't know. I don't think we fully figured out the thing. Like clearly good things come from it, from a marketing point of view, from a connecting point of view, from a dopamine excitement. Someone's doing an awesome thing. I want to do that awesome thing. I'm going to try that awesome thing. Information sharing, but there's also all the frivolous, weird stuff, like, but that can time suck and whatever. And I really do like watching the TikTok dances. They're great.
If you think about like,
there we go.
Oh, the internet it's fucking tons of fun.
Yeah.
Any of these social media platforms, they're way more positive than they are negative. There's a huge negative side of it, obviously, but there's a big positive side to it as well. But if like, I like some of the stuff where you got like someone like The Rock, people would think, oh, that's the greatest action, movie star that's around. But there's another guy who doesn't even have an Instagram, who's at least on paper made a lot more money. Someone like Tom Cruise made a lot more money in terms of, his box office move, I know The Rock does really well.
Right,
Kicks ass. But I kind of think that's cooler to not even have any of that. But what The Rock has done is amazing too. And how inspiring is that? And how many people has that impacted? So it is very tough to get away from some of this stuff when someone's like says, your message changed my life. Or how did Ben Patrick ever find out about me in the first place? It was through YouTube or some form of social media, some sort of video thing. And then he comes here and does a seminar and has like has like a whole entire like society of people that are like disciples of his, like it's acolytes. Yeah. Like
they're great. Honestly, it's such a, the other thing
that gave me goosebumps when he came here, because I was like, this is so strange. I was just showing stuff. He was inspired by me. We were both inspired by Charles Poliquin, Louis Simmons, and some of these people. Those are the people I was always thinking about. It's Louis Simmons, it's Charles Poliquin, it's Dave Tate, it's all these guys. And then when he came in and he started talking about me that way, I was like, this is fucked up.
Your speech was actually like,
I'm like, this is really
your
weird.
speech was a phenomenal speech, by the way. That was an
Thank you. I appreciate
that was a phenomenal speech. Like it was really, honestly, like it was.
But it's like, how do you stop? Like, I don't want to stop that.
Right.
But at the same time, I would love to kind of disconnect from some of that. And I just don't want to be on the hook for it. I want to be on the hook. I want to make sure that if I'm on the hook for something, that's something I truly want to do. And I also want to make sure that I'm not just in shape for social media or just strong for social media or just doing something for. So I already know that's the case because I've already been doing this beforehand, but you are kind of starting to lock yourself into this little box of just constant promotion. And I don't love it.
Right. I think there's, I think that's the thing of the newness of it, which is we're not sure where the boundaries of these things are.
Right.
And I think that's, that's a modern, that's the other thing of these things, these devices that are so wonderful and so amazing, but they're always with you. And it's, Robert Sapolsky, the great, researcher, it's like, the idea of cortisol and stress and, there's all these saber-toothed tigers running after you. But when it was actually that tens of thousands of years ago, it was a real saber-toothed tiger. And when you ran into your cave or threw the spear at it and killed it or ran away, you cleared the stress. But this is like thousands of little saber-toothed tigers that every minute are like lighting you up. And in some ways they're not real saber-toothed tigers, so the risks are low. But at the same time, the amount of drain that there is in it from an attention point of view and from a human interaction point of view. And I think that's the thing. And I'm bad at it too. I get caught up in the phone when I have someone right next to me. It's like spend time with that person. Just don't forget the moment of actual person instead of this device that's so distracting. And I think there's that. I think it's there's that element, which is trying to balance that is hard. I find it difficult. There's no question.
Guys, go check out the book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky. But also, when you're talking about philosophy, what if somebody wants to? There's so many books. You sent me like 8. What are some books that somebody can start with to get an introduction into philosophy? And then what are your your favorite books with Stoic philosophy specifically?
That's a very good question. I've thought a lot about this. I've thought a lot of this for many years. Okay, the first entry point, I would say one of the most brilliant entry points, and I would say the founder, at least the way I've been taught or the way I've thought about it, the founder of modernity is Machiavelli with The Prince. And I would say the translation is Harvey C. Mansfield's translation, who's a brilliant, absolutely brilliant professor at Harvard. I've heard him speak multiple times. He's getting older, but he's actually fantastic. He's also written a phenomenal book called Manliness, which I think in our time is very, very interesting. A philosophic point, a philosophic book to think about what it is to be a man and what that means in all its complex variegations. So those are two, but Machiavelli's Prince, I would say, as the founder of modernity and the idea, and if I would break it down in one sentence, I would say that the break of church and state, I would put it with Machiavelli. And all of the thinkers that came after in some ways were figuring out the details. So I think if you think about modernity, you have to think about Machiavelli. Also it being a brilliant book that is so fascinating and interesting. And it's also not that long. You want to delve deeper, the discourse is on the first 10 books of Titus Livy, which is also Machiavelli, but that's much harder.
And even though that book was short, I read it. I was rereading pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was dense.
I've thought about that book for Yeah, for 2 decades. Yeah, that's that book. And again, I have an obsession with Italy. I speak Italian terribly, but I have the book in Italian, and it's a beautiful, brilliant book. He was a brilliant thinker. Yeah, that's one. And again, this is something that I think this will take people. I mean, I still think about this book, Plato's Republic. I mean, Plato's Republic is an absolute brilliant book. It's in some ways the greatest joke of politics, and it's also the best book written about politics. And there was so much going on in the last couple of years that I was thinking about Plato's Republic. And again, I always go back to Socrates, but Plato's Republic, translated by Alan Bloom, who was my prof's teacher at the University of Toronto, who was a fascinating guy, and he wrote a book called The Closing of the American Mind, which is absolutely brilliant, and very, very fascinating. Yeah. Again, Jordan Peterson. I think Jordan Peterson's stuff. He's actually my father's very good friend. Wrote the introduction to 12 Rules. Dr. Norman Deutsch, who's also a brilliant thinker about neuroplasticity in the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Plato's Republic, Closing of the American Mind, Manliness, The Prince, and again, I sent you one. The one I would say, if you want to understand America to a certain extent and understand democracy, Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America is, and again, it's a thick tome, and that's translated by Harvey C. Mansfield. That's a thick tome. We were doing a reading group over the last few years, a few of my friends and my wife, and that was one of the books that we worked through, and that took a while, a bunch of months, and it's absolutely brilliant, and it makes you sure as hell think about democracy and sure as hell think about America, and I think those are worthwhile things to think about. So I would say those. That's a good.
Why did the like philosophers pop up? Seemingly kind of around the same time.
What you mean, the Greek philosophers? Or is that where you?
Yeah. I know there was philosophers before that, but yeah, the great Greek philosophers.
So I think that's a good question.
It's like a weird, shitty time, and people needed to have a different thought process.
There's an interesting thing about the beginning of Plato's Republic is in the Piraeus. Like Socrates is walking in the Piraeus, which is the port town of Athens. So in some ways, I think philosophy, back to the point, the Greek word is theoria, which is theory, which is where we get the word theory from, which is to look. And you look at the stars, but you also look at humans, and you look at everywhere. And so all theories, that's the idea of what philosophy is. You theorize. But I think there's something about newness. And so the port of Athens, which was a seafaring nation, that they went and saw other cultures and other things, that they had to look and try to understand the differences between what was Greek, what was not Greek, what was they called it barbaroi. That's where the word comes from, barbaroi, which is the words that it sounded like bar. So that's where the word barbaroi comes from. So that they were trying to conceive of what's the difference between us and them, or what's the difference between the Greek philosophers were trying to figure out what the difference was between physis, which is nature, it's where we get the word physics from, and nomos, which is law or custom. And so what is by nature and what is by custom? So that's sort of, and there's the philosophers before. So there's Herodotus, who is a Greek, again, historian, philosopher. And he makes an interesting point in his histories, which is, just to exemplify this point, the Greek philosophers were trying to think about this, which was they started to travel and expand and explore and try to understand the differences, such that Herodotus made the point that all humans bury their dead, but this tribe over here burns their dead, this tribe over here eats their dead, and this tribe, puts them out to sea, and this tribe buries them under the ground. That's nomos, that's custom. Different people do different things, but what's by nature is that humans do something with their dead. So the Greeks were trying to figure out that, and I think that's sort of the continuation of all philosophy to a certain extent, which is try to figure out what is by nature and what is by custom. And I think that's in some ways what the Greeks were doing early on.
Maybe because
and also trying to figure out the divine, what the divine was in connection to human.
Maybe because their society was, like, I guess you would say, set up pretty well, that they could actually afford to think that way. Because there's like a time in human history, I don't know if you ever heard this theory, and I forget how long it is, and there's speculation about how long it is, but there's a time in human history where it seems like we didn't make any progress. I don't know if you heard about that before, but like, it's like, I think it's a few 100,000 years.
Right.
And they don't know why.
Right.
And
like
then all
when
of a sudden,
was fire, right? When was, there's I think Paul Saladino has a very interesting evolutionary thing about the meat eating. And he thinks about, it was interesting because it was, okay, if we're from primates in the realm of like 6 to 7, something like 6 to 7 million years ago or something like that. And the first primates were the ones that didn't do so well in the trees, so they went down. I was like, okay, well, here's like some carrion. Well, I might as well eat that liver. I might as well eat that brain. And the omega-3s from that started to change the brain capability of these
or
primates.
maybe some mushrooms.
Yeah, or maybe potentially mushrooms, but all of the above, right? Omega-3s, which made them smarter, which made them happy. Or maybe they ate the mushrooms, which caused their trait openness to be higher, so that they were like, maybe I'll eat this carrion instead of like the berries in the trees or whatever. They ate the carrion, they ate the liver, they ate the brain stuff, the omega-3s, whatever. They got smarter, and it took, another 2 to 3 million years of that to then say, maybe I'll throw something at one of these animals so that I can kill them, which is another evolution. So, and then later it's like, okay, fire, right? Like, so these are, these are inventions, but the inventions, instead of it coming every 50 years, that Elon Musk does something every like 5 minutes, it was, it'll take 2 million years. So yeah, there's no question. So I think in some ways the freedom of the Greeks to be able to use sailboats to go and see different cultures, I think there's something in that realm potentially at that time where they could start to see differences instead of just their small tribe.
Who do you think had the biggest impact?
Who? Which philosopher?
Yeah.
Or Plato? Yeah, I think Plato. There's a philosopher that said
he had a university and stuff.
no, he was. There was a
that's-
school. There was a school of thought. Like, so Socrates studied. So Plato studied with Socrates. But here's the cool thing: is Socrates never wrote anything. So there's really
Right.
we have 4 sources of writings on Socrates. There's Plato. There's his other student Xenophon, which and then there's there's another guy, and there's Aristophanes, who's the poet. I forget the fourth. But anyway, so we have actual 4 sources of Socrates. Socrates never wrote anything. So then there's the school of Plato that Aristotle comes from, and then there's but I would say Plato. There was a philosopher, I think Whitehead, who's a British philosopher, once said that everything after Plato is a footnote. And I'm like, I can be like, fair enough. I mean, we were talking about Nietzsche. And I'm like, well, it's tough. Like, you get into Nietzsche and like everything is in dialogue with Plato. You're kind of like, well, okay. The Platonic dialogues are pretty tough. Like, okay, so now you're going to wade back there and be like, oh, that's what Nietzsche was talking about. Like, he talks, it's
a lot of darkness in that.
Very
too.
dark. Yeah, very dark. Very dark.
But that's why you introduced me to a lot of those books, because as I was reading Nietzsche, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, where does this even come from?
So
and
it's
you're like, you got to read this first before you even dive into that.
I love thinking about it, that it's a conversation between the greats, like these great thinkers, these great ideas. It's, Nietzsche's talking to Machiavelli. Machiavelli's what, 400 years before Nietzsche, but they're in conversation. Like Thomas Hobbes is talking to Plato, Aristotle's talking to Thomas Hobbes, and you think like, no, but they're not. But they'd thought of the arguments and they'd put it out. But obviously there's change and there's different stuff. So you're putting together what, who, and how. We didn't even talk about Rousseau. Rousseau, I think, is the genius of all of us, for all of us, is that he invented the personal best, which all of us care about very much in a training world. But that's an article. That's yeah.
Did you write an article on that?
No, but this is one of the things that I have
I'm very curious.
planned. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because before that, it was, are you better or are you not better? Like, are you excellent? Are you the greatest athlete or are you not the greatest athlete? But Rousseau was trying to make people happy to say, okay, well, you're not going to compare. What is it? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? So in some ways it's, okay, but my PR of like 5 pounds on the rotator is better than last week. And in some ways we all make money on that. Like, that's what we do. Like, fundamentally, our whole industry is about personal bests, as opposed to, no, did you beat, are you the Olympian that beat everyone at the wrestling and in ancient Greece, or were you the loser? That's why there's master's classes for jiu-jitsu for us.
Yep.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of different philosophers that you can kind of follow, and there's a lot of great things you can learn and gain from them. But I think if you view a lot of what people are sharing or what people have said, and because like, for some reason there's like, you place higher value on considering someone to be a philosopher.
Right.
You're like, these philosophies, these theories.
Right.
And you're pretty open to them too, for some reason. It's different than hearing like a statement.
Right.
It's because a philosophy is almost a little bit more like an open-ended question. Like, I wonder about this. I wonder about that. Here's kind of my thoughts on this and that. And there's less science behind it of saying like, this is actually this way, although some of them are pretty stern with their message. But I always thought that like Albert Einstein is like one of the most genius philosophers, and he's not really lumped in.
But you would say
stuff.
he's for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, when you start to like
think about it,
you start to really see. But I really like the fact that there's a lot of crossover between some of the science, some of the math, some of the philosophy. It's just interesting how you just you kind of end up going back and forth on that stuff. the more and more you dive into it.
Well, the thing that I learned from Plato that I love is this idea of some of the Platonic dialogues that end in something called an aporia. So the Greek word poros is a hole, like a pore, like your pores, but means not that. So it means so it's an impasse. So there's no pathway through. So it's what is courage? And you finish the dialogue and you're like, I don't know. I have more questions than answers, but it sure as hell I'm thinking about it now. Or what is love? And you're like, I'm not, what? Like, or what is justice? That's the Plato's Republic is all about what is justice? What is the good? What is the good city? And kind of like, I don't, great. So I know that sucks. And I know that this other thing sucks. And I know that so the puzzle of working it through gives you more answers, more questions than certitude. And I think that's the thing that, like back to we're talking about mTOR signaling and, remember the theories of muscle tears. That was a good theory. I like that one. Like, I like the muscle tear theory. Can we go back to that one? Like, I really like it.
Yeah.
But I'm cool with an aporia. And I think a lot of people are not. They're like, no, I want the answer. It's like, I'm cool with doing, and I think it's so cool that you embody that. We're talking about your running. You're like, a lot of people want to know the exact number of the miles that they've gone and the distance. Like, I just like doing the thing, like the process. So in some ways, like the process of thinking about these things and having conversations and sort of shunting towards some form of, it's probably kind of sort of that. I'm okay with that. And I think a lot of people are scared of that, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being like, yeah, I kind of sort of think it's over here. And doing these things kind of sort of make you feel better than doing those other things that kind of sort of make you feel worse.
Yeah, it feels good. It's fun. And I feel like I'm improving. I'm like, why would I dig around and mess with it any further?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so that's I like being in the position where it's not like there's not certitude. It's this or it's this. The certitude of science, I think in some ways is an illusion. That doesn't mean that there's not more kind of sort of than less kind of sort of. But I think that's the thing. And I think the entry point for all knowledge is human interpretation. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean you can make stuff up. It just means that you have to be more humble about the certitude that we put things out. So back to our point, ATG, Charles Poliquin, whatever it might be, or myself, I think this is a better recipe than other recipes I've seen. So I choose to do this recipe, and I choose the people that want to have me be their coach or us be their coach. Well, here's a recipe that we think will really help. And we've seen evidence of that. So kind of sort of go that way, as opposed to if you don't do it, you're a loser and you're on the bad team or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also recently got into a topic of fat shaming. And I want to kind of get your perspective living in Canada, if there's anything that's slightly different, for example, can somebody like as you're growing up, can you, tell a friend, hey, you're getting, I know Canadians are typically like,
right.
A lot of times you're labeled as being like polite.
No,
you go ahead. No, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah.
And you stand there at the door for 20 minutes trying to get someone to go through the door. But how is it in Canada? Like, is it different?
I think it's there. No,
is
it's the same. I just think that, when people try to talk about America and Canada, I would say the volume's just turned up more here. I mean, it's not, there's differences. There are differences. A funny example on a total random note, like everyone watches American television. So everyone think that you have, there's, I take the fifth, or you have Miranda rights. There's no such thing as the fifth in Canada. There's no constitution in Canada. It's different. There's no Miranda rights. Like no one has to read it. Like there's no, you have the right to remain silent. It's no, we are different.
Guy on a horse just takes your ass to jail.
There we go. Exactly. I can neither confirm nor deny whether that is or is not true, for my continued freedom. But it's, there are differences, but at the same time, I think there's, I think just the thing for a lot of Canadians, America is just the volume's turned up. But in some ways it's connected to what we said, which is it's okay to strive for the top here. No one knocks you. If you're like, I want to be the best NBA basketball player, go for it, man. Like you might do it or you might not do it. Whereas in Canada, there's much more like, who do you think you are? That doesn't mean there's not excellence in Canada too, but it's much more, you have to be more muted and much more undertone. So I just think the volume's turned up here more. And so people yell a little bit more here. Whereas in Canada, it's still there. There's still people, they're still, politically correct and this kind of stuff, but I think, I haven't really gotten into internet battles that much with people. It's not my nature. I don't really like the trolling type thing. It's just not interesting.
Is obesity in general turned up there the way it's turned up here?
It's the same there. There's the same problems. It's not like Canada's healthy and America's not. It's North American. Same thing with knees there. Same thing with, I just think there's some differences, which is I don't think the arms race for collegiate interest is the same in Canada as it is here. The fees aren't as high. It's not cheap, but it's not the same arms race, which is if you get into this school, you will make it this, or there's a guarantee if you make the Ivies that you'll make whatever. And I think there's that, or, money spent on kids to train so that they get scholarships. It's not the same. I mean, there's Canadian kids that want to come to the States.
Yeah.
So then they'll train and do all this stuff, but it's not the same culturally on that end. So I think some things, the tone is just a little quieter. That doesn't mean there aren't still people, but I think the fat shaming thing is everywhere. I think that's everywhere. I know in England, Australia, it's the same. It's like there's the battles of like, it's okay. And it's like, well, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. Like I remember Charles was saying, it doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it might not be great for health markers. I mean, it sure as hell isn't. So I think that's the argument, is to make it not about morality. You're a good person, you're a bad person, and say like, hey, we highly recommend that health markers. I think diabetes is not great. It's something you can do about mostly. Like, again, there's things you can do. So, heart disease is something you can work on. Like, it's not, again, there's genetic things and all this kind of stuff, but there's things one can do to mitigate. There's no guarantees. But there's things you can do. Or else our careers are useless. Or else there's things that you can do to make your knees feel better. There's things you can do to make your body fat less so. There's things that you can do to work your heart better and work your, so there's things one could do. Like, I think that's the thing. That's the argument that should be had. But if someone, the other thing is, if someone wants to get into that, it's like, okay, like go over there and do that. And I'm not interested in that debate because it's so ludicrous that I don't think, but if someone's making fun of someone that they're fat, that they're a bad person, well, that's stupid. Like, that's not, they might not know, they might not have options, they might have, addictions and this kind of stuff. Fine. But that doesn't mean that I don't think there's better or worse. I think that's the thing, is that not having a conception of a better or worse, not as a person, but from a health marker, I think that's where I'm not persuaded with that. Again, back to theories. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't stick. If someone says, oh, it's all the same, fat, not fat, I'm like, no, I don't think so. Again, not morally, but from a health marker point of view, it just doesn't make sense to me.
You've paid attention to a lot of people within fitness. I know, like, ATG, Ben, etc. But who are some other people outside of that who you think they're doing some pretty cool things, or there's some awesome things here that people can pay attention to and grab and glean some things from?
I think Paul Saladino is fascinating. I've listened to a bunch of Ben Greenfield. I like him a lot. I think he's sort of, the ADD of what's exciting right now. And I think there's good in that, because I think that's the nature of like, hey, this is a cool thing that I had. This is another cool thing. I think that's great.
Keep picturing him on his bathroom floor with the thing up his ass.
Yeah. Listen, it is what the enema.
Whatever.
Listen, it is whatever floats boats. Listen,
I'll be out in a minute.
Yeah. Listen,
Daddy's in the bathroom again.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, yeah. I like Paul Saladino. I think I'm persuaded to a certain extent by that argument from a nutritional point of view. Again, I think it's everything. I'm persuaded, but again, like, I used to be carb phobic, and I'm not carb phobic. It's in the same way. And I think different people are different. I think the nutritional world is really tough because I think it's so ideological, and people are so attached to various things. And the answer is like, okay, cool. Like, someone said to me, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a strength coach, personal training, and he's like, oh, well, you'd be really mad that I eat this. I'm like, I'm not. You don't pay me. You can eat what you want. And I think that's sort of the mindset which most of us should have. Is like, you do that, that's cool. Like, all right, if you were asking me, or if you're going to pay me to coach you, well, then it's different. Then I can be like, hey, this is the recipe I think works better for your thing. And if I get you results and you follow my stuff, I'm right. And if I don't, well, then I'm wrong. So I think fundamentally results matter. So I think, I don't know. But again, it's back to the speed of trust. If someone's eating you're like, okay, full carnivore, blah, 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 weight training, everything great. It's like, calm down. Like, maybe change your breakfast. Or maybe have a protein shake after your workout.
Yeah.
Maybe actually have a workout. Maybe drink more water. These kind of things. I think habit forming stuff, I think is much more important than being ideologically like hitting your head. I think some people caloric, I don't want to do it, but I don't think the caloric model is simply wrong. But I also think that it's a hand wavy motion type model. It's not like, I think I was talking about this. This is where everyone's going to cancel me or whatever you want to call it, where it's like, I think nutritional science is just as scientific as political science. There's too many human factors to me. And I think that doesn't mean there's not potential heuristics that are, like little formulas that are possible for people to figure out some form of way that'll allow them to get towards their body. But so long as we say that it's not simply a truth, like this is the truth.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is a recipe. If we're talking about food that could work and you try it, it works, cool. and I'm someone who knows this recipe and you try that recipe, cool. But I think there's many ways to skin the cat.
Do you think that's kind of true of all of fitness, including the way that we move?
Yeah, I think
lifting
so.
and stuff like
yeah,
that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think there's many
I
ways to skin
agree.
a
I think
cat.
it's all kind of wishy-washy in
Yeah.
terms of the science. It
Yeah,
seems
yeah, I
like.
think so too. I'm
You
not
have to
persuaded.
do it full range.
Yeah,
you have to do
yeah,
it full half range. You have
Yeah.
to do it
I think so. I mean,
loaded. It's like it just seems like it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, and I think that's the thing. The other thing is that back to the Socratic, which is always where I go. There's too many factors in the human that mean that I don't think we'll ever be in the position where it can isolate enough such that it is X or Y or Z. I think the only way to talk about science and the best scientists speak like philosophers, where they say, listen, with these studies that we put together, the scientific method, all that kind of stuff, we've repeated it, and it's probably kind of sort of this.
We
in
really
our
don't
theory.
know.
Yeah, we're not sure, but it's probably kind of sort of this. And then you say, okay, well, are you going to bet your career on it? And they're like, yeah, this one I've done enough studies. I'm going to bet my career on this. Or you're going to be like, are you going to bet your life on it? Whoa. Man, not my life, but I'll bet my career, Hammurabi's Law, which is, I don't know if you remember that, but Nassim Taleb talks about it, which is like the architect should, what is it? Like the law is such where if the architect builds a house and that house collapses and kills people, they should have their son die. In other words, there's skin in the game. So how much skin in the game do you have on your theory? You bet your career? Cool, awesome, high five. Okay, you bet your career on that, and I respect the argument that you're putting forward, the theory. I'm like, yeah, that's persuasive, cool. You bet your child's life on that? God forbid, whatever. But the point is how much do you think that probability is true? I'm like, nothing that I do I bet my career on some things. But I don't know. I'm not betting any lives of any people.
Paul
so whatever.
Saladino did a great job of changing his mind.
Yeah, the fruit thing.
People very rarely do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I changed my mind.
Yeah, I was persuaded by that too. I was like, this is interesting.
I thought that was brave.
Yeah.
It's hard that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, totally. I was like,
What specifically did he change his mind on? What, fruits and vegetables? What are
Fruits,
we talking
fruits
about here?
more.
Fruits?
Just fruit, pretty much.
Yeah, he was like, no. And then he was like, actually, this stuff makes sense.
Who else should we follow?
Who else should you follow?
Any other people
Pay
that
attention to, yeah.
pay attention to?
Who might pay attention to? I'm trying to think.
Maybe current philosophers or current people that move and teach
strength
training
I
well.
would say like I like, Jordan Peterson's phenomenal.
Of course.
There's a few friends, I would say this. Oh man, like it's hard because he's not on Instagram, but I would say this. I would have to give, thanks to Preston Green, who's, a friend and a mentor who just got the job at the University of Miami for the basketball team. He's a phenomenal strength coach. He was a Charles guy. I was telling Mark this. He called Charles when he was 14 years old and asked him a question about glutamine. Again, like realizing he's a couple years older than I am. He found it and looked up his book. It looked up his number, and Charles was like, who are you, kid? F off. And then the story goes, a few days later, he got the confidence again to call him back. And Charles was like, okay, and anyway, and the rest is history. He's like phenomenal strength coach. I would say Preston Green. I've got a bunch of friends that are phenomenal. I would say my friend Dave Lawrence at Mecca in Detroit is putting out great results, and their social media presence is pretty great. He's an old school Charles guy, but he's, it's interesting. A lot of the conclusions that he's come to are similar to Ben's. We talk about it. People that are really great for long-term periodization, I like a lot. Kilo Strength Society, they're great. Like, I think they're really great.
Kilo
They're friends
Strength
of mine.
Society?
Yeah, they're really great. Again, they worked with Charles for many years, and they have their own interpretation of like how to do long-term periodization. They're great with specialty techniques and eccentric methods and all kind of stuff. I think they're great. Ido Portal,
That's
like he just
someone
doesn't.
who
He's phenomenal. Like again, I would consider him a friend and someone that I've spent some time doing some stuff with. Like the last time I saw him was years ago. We spent a 2.5 hour coffee chat.
Where's he based out of now?
I think he travels. I think a lot of the time he's in Berlin, but I'm not sure. I haven't spoken to him in a while. But again, I think he does a genius. Like I think he's brilliant. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's a phenomenal mover. He's a phenomenal coach of movers. I just think he's devoted his life to movement, and he's brilliant. Like I really think he's brilliant. Like I think he's philosophic, but I think he's very esoteric in some ways, so it's hard to access him. And I don't think he's trying to be. Yeah. He's not trying to promulgate to the masses. That's not And again, all power to him. He's happy doing his thing. He's brilliant. I like him a lot. I get along with him really well, and I agree with a lot of the things he says. So it's it's cool because he came through Charles too. So
He did.
Yeah, he was a Charles. He did a lot of Charles stuff, but then he went on and did. Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's how I got to Ido. Like, I remember him talking about. People were like, "Oh, you're the body weight guy." He's like, "No, just for upper body. Like lower body, you need load. And I remember being like, he's not dogmatic. Interesting. And I remember asking him questions. He's like, no, you need a barbell and load for the lower body to truly develop lower body strength. You actually need to load it in a way that you can't do without significant loads. And guess what? The barbell is a great tool. So I do Olympic lifts. They're just kind of boring for people to see, but I do them. And I do I squat, I deadlift, like I do all those things. He's like, I do Nordic curls, the Howard curls. Like he's like, this is, it's just more boring. Lower body's not as complex as a hand balance. Like, wow, you do a hand balance or one arm chin up. So he's like, here's me squatting, double body weight. Like, he's not that big, but that's not as impressive. But he's like, but that's what I need. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. I was like, okay, you're not dogmatic. And the movement stuff I think is fascinating. Yeah. ATG has a lot of like the shadows of that because Keegan's inspired by that a lot too.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that drew me. I'm like, Keegan's inspired by some of that stuff, which I really like. It's the idea of movement and not just sort of like, here's a barbell, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's, the idea that you're saying, like to me, I think that what's fascinating, finding what smart people find in common when you said all of these tools are arbitrary. Like a barbell's so weird. Like it's dumbbells are like, I'm like, ooh, I have the special, I'm like, and they're beautiful. I love my dumbbells. They're amazing.
Yeah, people always talk about a squat and they're envisioning just having the weight on your back.
Yeah, and you're like, but why? Yeah.
So it changes the dynamics of everything as soon as the weight's on your back. I mean, we're trying to talk about like natural movements a lot of times. And then like a squat is such a natural movement. And you're like, well, is it?
Right.
I don't think so.
I mean,
it seems fairly unnatural to load a bunch of weight on your spine.
Barbell squat.
Especially double your body weight.
yeah,
Like it's
very
just
awkward, very odd.
It's
but back to back to the question, what is nature?
yeah, and what is it? Well, and what the fuck is it for?
Right.
It in some ways to me it seems like idiotic in a way. It seems like a lot to ask of your body.
Right.
To go do a sprint or to jump or to a lot of those things make a lot of sense, but sometimes
But I don't know. I mean,
laying down and bench pressing and stuff, but they're fun. They're all fun things. They're great.
but they're arbitrary and you've been at the peak of them. But again, like if you think like what Nsima and I have chosen to do, which is jujitsu, this is the fight that's got these, I love how John Danaher talks about it. It's like, this is the rule set. Wait a minute. I just got elbowed in the face. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the rule set is such that it is fighting, but not because
Right.
like, and it's like, oh, this lapel grip is the good way to, it's like, I mean, it's an arbitrary rule set, but it's a fun rule set. So I guess the thing is that it's the same thing. It's like, here's a bar, here's a rule set. Like, how much do you play with the rule set?
Yeah, everything has its little tweaks and stuff, whether it be gymnastics or CrossFit.
It's like, this is allowed. Like, this is not. It's like, why are women not allowed to do ring muscle ups? Well, they don't in the Olympics because there's no rings in the Olympics for women, but that doesn't mean women can't do ring muscle ups when they're playing. It's like, well, the Olympics just don't have the event for ring muscle up. It's parallel bars and unparalleled bar. Like, there's no rings.
Not know that
women don't do rings. It's only an event for men. Okay. Like, and the male bars is, like there's the single bar and the parallel bar, like uneven bars. Like that's for women. Like, why?
I never understood softball versus baseball. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Well, it's always better with a bigger ball.
Yeah, I guess so. Bigger ball is pitched underhand.
It's different game. I don't know.
Andrew, take us on out.
Sure thing. But real quick, why do Canadians say Zed?
Arbitrary games.
Or did I hear what I wanted to hear? Whatever.
No, you're probably right. No, yeah, exactly. That too. I don't know. There we go. We end with an I don't know.
Perfect.
I don't know.
Sounds good. All right. In the comments, let me know why I think like the whole rest of the world says Zed, right? I could be wrong.
America.
Yeah, we paved our own way.
There we go.
Let me know in the comments down below, and also just comment anything for that good old algorithm. And please like today's episode if you guys haven't already, and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed. And follow the podcast at MB Power Project on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all over the place. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Discord links and all that good stuff is down below, along with the Reddit. Ben, where can people find you?
The ATG Coach on Instagram. There we go.
And for our ATG programs and all that stuff?
Yeah, ATG for coaches. Again, knees over toes guy. We're all connected. What we're doing is we're growing the in-person coaching. So if you think it's useful, sign up for the ATG for coaches online. And if you want to be a coach and if you want to do the program, knees over toes guy program's great. And we're going to do more in-person events with ATG. And the other thing is like my facility is Reach Personal Training in Toronto, Canada. I have a phenomenal team and I'm very grateful for them. And it's what I love to do in person. And there we go. And thank you guys very much for having me. It's amazing. Thank you. You guys are wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye. Woo. Yes, sir.